Hello, everybody, and welcome to the World Championship play-in matches for the APAC regional grudge match tiebreaker style thing that we have to do here based on some point totals that were all sort of wrapped up together at the end of the year. My name is Boulevard. Joining me for this is going to be Rory B. Rory, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. I think it's a bit early for you. I think you're a bit sleepier than I am because it's right in the morning for you, but I am over the moon that we get to watch quite a rare grudge match. I'd say quite a rare tiebreaker, a three-way tiebreaker for a single spot at Worlds. Could the stakes really be any higher than this?
Absolutely not. This is the smallest tournament that we're going to have to directly qualify someone into the World Championship, but it is necessary, and as we mentioned, we have three players, Koa, Pukaru, and Kuro. A couple of them had some deep runs at the last chance qualifier, didn't quite make it, now have to once again enter the gauntlet against each other to make this happen. But let's take a look at the format that these players are going to be participating in. So as usual, it's going to be a standard sort of tournament here, Rory. Players are bringing three different decks with no duplicated champions, no duplicated region combination, no more than one deck without any champions at all. They're going to ban one of their opponent's decks before the matches begin, cannot use a deck again after winning a game with it, and each tournament round is going to last no more than 65 minutes. And as we can see, three players, round robin, they're all going to play each other. Rory, tell us how we're going to handle the tiebreakers in case that is something that we have to deal with in this tiebreaker match.
Right, now you all might have to pay attention a little here, and don't worry, we will drop by this throughout the show. But basically, first place is if you win two out of two round robin matches. And then if there's a tie, we go off the most won games out of those matches. And then at the end of it, if there's a tie, if everyone is settling at 2-1 across the board, we go for the top Runeterra all-world qualifier open finish. Currently, Koa is at the top of that, which means if everything is tied up by the end of the day, Koa will be advancing.
And that's possible, right? If everybody
Yes.
goes 1-1 and like 2-0 is their opponent, or we have a bunch of 2-1s, then yes, Koa, who has won a Runeterra Open, will move on to the World Championship. But we're hoping to avoid that. It's going to be really nice if we can just have a clear-cut winner for this. And we're going to be starting off with I don't remember who we're starting off with, but when we get into the deck list, I'll figure it out. I have too many tabs open.
We're starting off with Koa versus Pukaru. So you'll immediately notice that all these decks are control decks. APAC has just decided we don't care about aggro, we don't care about mid-range, we're only going control. Koa going War Mother's cool, Targon version of Jarana Seraphine, and also Karma Set as their classics. And then you look at Pisu, who's going Sarah Set, ASOL War Mothers. All of these pretty standard control decks from our most recent open. But Pukaru has snuck in Eve Maokai. That's right, the Watering Grave cheese that you may hate on ladder has actually made it to this tournament. And Pukaru is pretty damn good at it because he went 10-1 in the most recent open on the deck.
I was surprised to see it make it all the way to the top 8 of the LCQ. I think I'm even a little surprised to see it run back on this. Now, I'm not sure what other sort of changes have been made from Pukaru's lineup from the LCQ2 now, but these players have had a couple of days to prepare. Not an insane amount of time, just making sure that they're trying to prepare specifically for what their opponents are bringing. This is a very unique event in that, where you can look at your opponent's sort of competitive history over the course of the year, have a pretty good idea of what they're going to be bringing, right? You don't have to beat 64 people. You just have to beat 2, and if you're Koa, you actually might just have to beat 1.
Yeah, you might just have to draw it out a little. One thing I love about the lineup we're looking at right now, the Seraphine set, is that there's been an addition I rarely see, and that's Puffcat Peddler. Pukaru understands that if they go late, they're just going to need a little bit of extra push across the line to take out the enemy's Nexus, and Puffcaps can do that quite easily.
And you're running all these different spells that sometimes don't do as much as you would want them to in the early game with the Seraphine list. You're kind of just firing off spells for the sake of firing them off to level up the Seraphine. Might as well get a couple of Puffcaps in the deck as well. Then we've got a sort of a Targon War Mother's Call, not Shadow Isle. Only one champion on the ASOL here, not choosing to run the Volibear or the Tryndamere or anything like that. Instead going, I guess, a little bit lower to the ground, you could call it, with the Cosmic Youngling. I know that usually you'll see the Freljord Demacia Explorer in these lists. Looks like Pukaru not valuing that, maybe not expecting a lot of Jax Ornn in this specific tiebreaker match.
Yeah, Kuro only running Jax Ornn. He's the only player running Jax Ornn. And now we see Pukaru's Evelyn Maokai, what brought them so much success. Grave Companion as a 3 of is really interesting, actually. Classically, when I've seen this deck play, people can tend to brick with Grave Companion, but obviously if it works, and Pukaru has a lot of confidence on this deck.
And you'll love to see it, Rory, having the confidence to say, this wasn't the weak point of my lineup in the LCQ. This isn't why I'm not going to Worlds. Now we're going to look at Koa running a more standard version of the War Mother's Call. This is a lot more of what we expect, except Ron the Magma Serpent, not standard in a list like this either. Also kind of light on champion numbers.
Yeah, and I was looking at this, scratching my head a little, because War Mother's Call, if the game goes really late, you could just run out of units with the amount of extra spells Koa's running. They're really going to have to think about their turn 9, turn 10 swings and how they get their damage to push them over the line.
Then we've got a Seraphine Janna. I believe Seraphine is the one champion that all of these players have agreed, okay, yeah, this is something that we need to be doing, this meta. And just going for the Targon version, we see the double temple, 1 bar. Sometimes that's switched around, sometimes it's not. But looking at this list, I know it's hard to identify anything that stands out in a Seraphine list, but maybe Celestial Impact is a little bit higher of a top end than we're used to seeing.
Celestial Impact's really cool because it also destroys landmarks, so can be used to take out Sunken Temple in a pinch if you're not able to find your Aftershocks. And then we're looking at the stock standard Karma set. With the buff to 9 lives, that's now an inclusion that we've seen in the most recent opens. But apart from that card, nothing really stands out to me.
No, maybe just a couple more explorers than someone might expect. No landmarks. Usually you're not seeing temple or bar in these Karma set lists, just playing a little bit more of a standard Legends of Runeterra control game. And Karma set's been performing very well for competitors over the course of the year. Now, as we get into the ban phase, what are you looking to take out here, Rory?
So for Koa, I think your largest threat here is just getting milled by the Eve Maokai, actually. It's the only deck that is designed to eat control. So I would just get rid of that. You can't really deal with it with any of your decks because you have some good AoE removal with P and Z spells and the likes of Avalanche, but Maokai is very happy to just to sack units for the sake of his level up.
It's really not an issue for them. And as you mentioned, like, this is exactly the kind of matchup that Pukaru was looking for with that Evelynn Maokai, which heartbreakingly means we probably won't get to see it right now.
Yeah, not yet. And then for Pukaru's bans, Koa has basically brought two decks that do exactly the same thing. The Seraphine and the Karma mirror each other quite interestingly. But I want to know if Pukaru is confident that they can outspeed War Mother's ramp from Koa.
Oh, it looks like we actually are getting the bans in, yeah. Going to take out the War Mother's Call and going to take out the Seraphine set. So actually we are going to get to see the Karma Maokai. Yep, or Evelynn Maokai.
We're going to get to see Evelynn Maokai just kicking us off right now. Quite a solid hand for Pukaru. Going to keep the Evelynn to keep the Husk generation. And the Watery Grave in the pocket is actually really nice, so you don't accidentally toss all three copies while just going through your deck, pursuing that Maokai level up.
And we are away into the action. Pukaru versus Koa. Winner doesn't go to Worlds just yet. We've got, again, this is going to be a round-robin format, so we're going to have to figure it out over the course of the entire day. But that's great because it means that every game matters. But looking at the opening hand now for Pukaru, we've got a slow one.
We've got a slow one, and unfortunately, Koa has answers to both Evelynn and Maokai in form of the Howling Gale and the Rocket Barrage. So dropping that Maokai is a bit too risky early on, which generally you'd hope to do in a control matchup.
That said, Koa's not really going to be able to do a good job of taking advantage of this weak hand from Pukaru. Seraphine, especially Targon Seraphine, is not something that's going to get on board early and really start to pressure the opponent and go, oh, you didn't want to put a card on the table until turn 4? Well, you're already down 5, 6 life, something along those lines for that. Instead, it's just going to be like a Cosmic Youngling on 3 without token, and this is just absolutely no pressure being put on Pukaru. Everything should go according to plan as long as they can get a couple of champions to survive the initial onslaught.
Definitely agree, and I'm wondering if Pukaru just jams the Evelynn here and says, if you want to use all your mana getting rid of a 5 HP unit, go for it. I've got another even hand, it's alright.
And because of that, I think I'd actually like to see Pukaru stutter step the Evelynn this turn. I know it doesn't come up often, but that Evelynn spell, being able to counter whatever is targeting her, because with Targon, Piltover, and Zont, there's only so many cards that can actually threaten the Evelynn. For example, the Howling Gale that we see. If you can negate that with the Evelynn spell and still have that additional copy in deck, that can be a huge blowout.
Definitely agree, especially as Koa is running so many one-offs. So it's a one-off of Howling Gale, Rocket Barrage, and Celestial Impact. Those are the only real threats to Eve. So I definitely agree. Keeping that Eve Champ spell could be very valuable. I might just drop down the Grave Companion.
Yeah, it's Grave Companion seems like the best bait that you have there, and then it's kind of a matter of, okay, does Koa actually feel comfortable leaving this round? But no, it is going to be Evelynn coming out straight away. Now, I don't think Koa can kill this cleanly. Howling Gale isn't going to get up to 5 damage this turn.
So, could Rocket Barrage to kill off the Husk, stopping Eve from leveling next turn, and then leaving Evelynn as a 0-1? It doesn't feel good. You're not making much value out of that Rocket Barrage if you do fire that off.
Yeah, with Rocket Barrage being an auto kill onto the Maokai, I think that's something Koa is going to have to really think about, because obviously Pukaru can wait until the Maokai is level to throw it down, but Maokai is sort of his own engine. If you can get him down early and start to run away with the game, that's going to feel really, really good. But I guess this might even just be like a Janna turn from Koa, maybe a Song Spinner turn to try and level the Seraphine a little bit faster, and I'm not really surprised to see Koa really thinking on this one.
I was just considering, Janna does sound a bit right. There was a possible line where you Sump Fumes the Husks, so it stops Maokai getting to a 2-5, a lot tankier and a lot harder for a Seraphine Janna deck to clear, but no. Pukaru does manage to pick up the Sea Scarab, though, which is so valuable into this deck. It's going to turbo those cards out.
Fury's not a bad keyword either. Not going to do... I mean, actually, no. It will do a little bit on Evelynn here. The fact that you can't chump block it down and then put it into the sort of arena of Rocket Barrage is rather big in a scenario like this. And Koa kind of already threatening a Jano level up in the absolute near future thanks to the Stuttering Song Spinner.
Yeah, very close. I think that nerf to her pushing her level up requirement from 6 to 8 will be incredibly impactful here for the next few turns, because though it doesn't have really much draw in hand except for the elusive unit. And now Pukaru, what do you want to do here? You could drop Aeris and force removal out onto her.
And that kind of feels like the only option that Pukaru has. It's either do nothing or play Aeris. Everything else in the hand just a little bit too expensive, but it looks like it's just going to be Evelynn sent in, and this will open her up to the Rocket Barrage if Koa wants to chump block with the Duskbringer.
So you can do that, but the moment you fire off the Rocket Barrage into Evelynn, she can last Caress into the Janna, and then that's a massive swing.
Disaster. Absolute disaster for Koa if that were to happen, but it... You know, not going for the block does read like Song Spinner might be coming out here. No, it's actually going to be Rocket Barrage onto the Sea Scarab. Koa identifying, okay, I think this is actually the card that I need to worry about. This is the engine of the deck. This is what I need to take out. But with a Seraphine deck being what it is, it's a lot of one-ofs, a couple of two-ofs. Pukaru knows that this is a little bit more of a green light to throw down a Maokai safely. Yeah,
and that makes Koa only now have 2 answers, before Seraphine's leveled, of course, 2 answers spell-wise. Wow, okay, just immediately shutting down Janna here. It's not ambitious, but you are losing all your Eve's protection.
Yeah, the Fury proc is going to keep Evelynn pretty healthy here, but now the Evelynn, you know, there's no backup Evelynn. That was your protection for the Evelynn, and Howling Gale not quite going to get the job done.
That Fury Husk making it so Koa just doesn't have the reach anymore. I just pass and bank the spell mana. Koa's not in an urgent situation where they need units on the board.
That was hot.
They kind of are
regen
in that they've got to kill Pukaru before all of this can start going off. But, you know, you've dealt with the Sea Scarab, and maybe you're thinking a false sense of security comes in. A second copy of Maokai.
So, Regeneration Husk onto Maokai is crazy good, because it forces Koa to remove Maokai in 1 turn, and that's a lot of spells being forced into 1 full-cost champion. Koa has a big decision to make now. Do they want to throw 2 cheaper spells here, or just bang that Celestial Impact? A 6-mana Celestial Impact.
I think the Celestial Impact is where you want to be at, but Koa actually goes for a second copy of Seraphine. Maokai going to come down, consume the Husk up to 5. Going to be a flip on the Evelynn as well. This is a killable Maokai for Koa, but it would take the last pieces of removal out of their hand unless they... I don't know, you could throw down Seraphine, use your Dusk Petal, use the Howling Gale, but then there's still this Evelynn you have to deal with, and a second copy of Maokai waiting in the wings.
I don't love this open attack from Koa because it's giving Pukaru an extra sapling and tossing. If you want to kill that Maokai, you got to kill him immediately before he can generate any value, especially in a very scary matchup like this where Koa's wanting to go late.
I don't think there's a way for Koa to kill the Maokai without giving a priority sequence over, other than using both pieces of removal, but even just getting up to the Howling Gale would have required playing out the Seraphine there, so like, this card still gets the option.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought Dust Petal into Howling Gale would have been 5, but maybe I've miscounted, it would have only been 4. But definitely agree, that's a lot of mana to force onto just 1 unit, and a lot of removal anyway.
But this does mean, you know, Howling Gale still an option to take out the Maokai for the remainder of the turn. Probably going to see a Quietus out of Pukaru to take out the Elusive, and actually going to take out the Elusive from Koa as well, just stacking up that removal to ensure that neither of these can come through. Stop the, you know, attacking on a couple of fronts. Stop a little bit of Husk generation, stop the tossing, stop the potential win condition, and now it's a little more precarious for Pukaru. This is your second copy of Maokai. If you don't have the third, or don't find it, then it can be a little awkward, but Spell Shield
is a crazy high roll.
I'm trying to look at what exists in this Seraphine-less, trying to figure out like how easy is it to actually deal with the spell shield, and with high notes starting to get up there but not quite there yet. Yeah, we're at a stage of the game where the spell shield is incredibly valuable.
Incredibly valuable. There is a line where you don't play Maokai yet, and you just say, I'm keeping him in my pocket. You either play Aeris to guarantee more Husk generation, or you put Grave Companion down just to keep cycling through your deck.
I think Aeris is going to make better use of the spell shield. I think if Grave Companion comes down, then that's something that Koa is already going to have a difficult time dealing with. They've already used a couple of their high priority removal spells, the ones that can deal with these 4 HP units, but it is actually just going to be the Maokai coming in, really getting not quite greedy on the side of Pukaru, but saying, hey, I really need to take advantage of this Maokai while I can. I need to play Aeris after this Maokai's down so that I can toss, because realistically, Sea Scarab died relatively early. This Maokai is not close to leveling.
Not close to leveling at all. And now Evelyn is permanently leveled. She will guarantee a Husk every turn. That will create a sapling every turn because Husk generation is at round start.
And that's also going to put a really strong draw engine into the Grave Companion. We can see they're 11 out of 25 on the Maokai. 2, 3 toss left in hand, and that's about it. So it is really going to be on this Maokai to level it up. Now, Song Spinner coming out, we get more powder versus Hate Spike, and more powder with a high note could be a way to take out a couple of these champions, but of course there is interaction for the kegs in Pukaru's list, and there's really not much else they need to do with that undergrowth.
Oh. Purify, we could see that being picked just because Syncopation is pretty dead as a card here. Seraphine isn't under any threat from Sapling. And a cheap Spell Shield breaker here being found for Koa.
These are actually pretty good hits off the Song Spinner, and it looks like Koa does actually go for Syncopation and the more powder. Probably going to have to more powder post-combat, though, unless you feel like using the Syncopation for that, which doesn't seem like the case. Pukaru Pukaru could take the pass here, but you have the option to take the elusive over to the side and get in with the Aeris while your opponent's tapped out. It seems too good.
Yeah, I don't see a situation where you'd say I'm passing, except for if you really think Koa could have pulled crazy answers and want them to go from 0 cost to 2 back to 2 cost next turn.
Koa is choked on the mana front, which I think is the only reason Pukaru would ever consider that. Actually pulls the Seraphine away, setting her up for either Quietus or Undergrowth, and then just sending in the Evelyn as well, saying the Spell Shield will protect, on top of the fact that got to get through the blockers eventually. The Maokai being so far away from leveling and potentially dying now that the Spell Shield is gone, you've got to think, okay, plan B is Evelyn beatdown. We've got to get that going, at least threaten it.
But I just want to point out that Evelyn will lose her Spell Shield next turn because it was generated by Husk dying this turn, which means now she's at 4 HP. She's in a much easier zone to kill from.
Especially with more powder coming through, which I can't really blame Pukaru for not seeing that one coming.
Yeah,
I assume now we're going to see a kill onto the Seraphine, but Koa already has that backup Seraphine that they grabbed earlier in the game.
And actually could use the free Syncopation here if Quietus comes out to swap Seraphine with Cosmic Youngling and make the Quietus fizzle.
I would imagine that's going to be the play. I don't see much better use ever coming out of this Syncopation. That's exactly what it's going to do. Overall, you know, sort of a win on those interactions towards the end of the turn for Koa, but with the Evelyn Maokai established, not sure how it's going to work out. And actually, the Husk comes out and there's no sapling from Maokai. Caress, though.
Maybe it must be turn end then. I must be mistaken on that form. But yeah, last Caress here. Going to do a lot of work because any high notes that are targeting Eve and another unit, she can just remove completely.
With Seraphine leveling here, that means that we're at 9 unique spells played. We've seen a couple of different units come down, so we're not too far off the pursuit of perfection, folks. Probably at around, I'd say, 14,
13?
maybe even as high as 15. Not this turn, but maybe by Koa's next attack token.
This is risky. Koa knows. If Undergrowth is in Pukaru's hand, Tie Note going to be pretty useless. So do they just invest the Sunburst to kill off this Maokai now?
They do
Hedge the
have
bleeding.
They do have the backup high note, but that's again just going to like consume more tools out of their hand. That's also going to get the second Seraphine out of their hand. And
Yeah.
smart Koa not going after the Evelyn, playing around the last caress.
Do they feel desperate? Do they feel like they have to use this high note now? Feel like the answer is yes.
There's not a lot of fast speed removal in Pisakaru's list. It feels like a relatively safe high note, and it is going to get lined up here. No answer for Pisakaru from that, but at least we'll get a draw of the Grave Companion towards the end of the end of the round. Unless we use
No, 'cause
unless
Grave Companion has to
last caresses
see.
the husk, Maokai would still die. Doesn't feel worth it.
I wouldn't like that. I don't think it gets much. But seeing Seraphine's high note being played, Pisakaru might just last caress the Seraphine here.
It would like the defenses are kind of down for Koa. This is a nice opportunity
Yeah.
to go for the last caress, but it's also probably one of the last times that Pisakaru will need to draw Maokai again to win this game, probably. And getting as many draws off the Grave Companion as possible feels like the best way to do that because Pisakaru is only down to one Maokai remaining.
Let's try one octave higher.
Koa will just take 2 damage off of Pisakaru's Nexus, but Pisakaru doesn't really care. It's very high still on health. Might save that Grave Companion till next turn to guarantee the draw at the start by consuming a husk.
Scream for me.
Yeah, once the extra health on the Grave Companion.
Oh, Fearsome
Fearsome?
is very nice.
Unfortunately,
Gets a good hit in.
yeah, a little 1 damage ding onto the Nexus to invalidate some of the Cosmic Youngling, but it does
Oh, no,
give it over to
'cause Eve
Evelyn as
gets
well,
Fearsome
and
as
that's
well,
going to make it a
is
little
what I
bit
meant.
easier to push a bit of damage. Of course, Koa does have an answer for this should they want it in the cause. Oh, 21 out of 25. A little bit of draw coming through for Koa. More draw.
I do want to add earlier, we saw Koa being forced to use Seraphine's high note, which means after Watery Grave, they wouldn't have an answer. Now top decking a Seraphine, they will have an answer to that Watery Grave to put another card on the bottom of their deck. But massive swing here for Pukaru. It's a big investment by Koa. Hoping Pukaru doesn't have the last caress. It does! Go take out Seraphine, but it's fine. Koa has another in hand.
We're playing by my
That does take away the answer for the Watery Grave in the late stage of this game, though, because Koa, previous turn, high note gets doubled up. Seraphine's high note comes out in response. That was only one Seraphine shuffled into the deck because it was the first high note, the non-Seraphine high note,
Yes.
that got doubled up. So it's just something to keep in mind if it comes down to that. I'm not sure that we're going to get to a point where Pisakaru can Watery Grave without the Maokai combo, especially with 18 out of 20 on the Pursuit of Perfection.
Koa can Big Cat this turn.
done through me.
I'm pretty sure that was a misplay. If you use
They can still do it because, well, I guess Seraphine would have generated a 2-mana spell that you haven't played this game
Yeah.
anyway. It could have been an unplayable one like Sharzy, which would have been tragic, but
Yeah.
there's the Pursuit of Perfection is going to be online this turn. We're at 19 out of 20. All Koa has to do is play one more unique card, but the timer is ticking down. They're really low on time this game. They've got to act quick here.
Caustic Rift, only 2 mana, we'll be able to do it, and Big Cat. We've already played Janna, though.
That is not going to activate the Pursuit of Perfection. Perhaps the timer just getting to Koa in a situation like this. But there is also... Yeah, there's 3 Vengeance in Pisakaru's list, and there's
Yes,
still 10
that
mana
is true.
available. So perhaps just not... feeling like they really want to try and bait out a Vengeance before they go for something like that, or find a backup win condition in Star Shaping.
Fortunately, not really what Pisakaru is talking about, but maybe drawing Maokai off of Grave Companion here.
Desperate to lose control. Nothing new.
Just another Undergrowth, unfortunately. Gonna buy Koa another turn.
Don't have to be sharp to make a point.
With all these Janna pulls. I'd love to see how many cards Koa has left in their deck. They've drawn a decent amount this game, and it could be just 2 Watery Graves seals the deal.
I don't think they're that low. My guess would be, maybe a little under
Around
20. I would
20.
guess around a little higher than 20. Usually, like when Seraphine and Karma decks end the game, they've got about like 21 cards left.
21 is what I've just been told. Okay, so there's still a bit off of the 12 that Watery Grave would eat up. Has Big Cat. Pukaru does not have an answer for it.
These are some options. Living Legends obviously could give you lethal. Cosmic Inspiration buffs up the board that you already have. Kind of lets you fight through the Evelyn. It plays better on defense, but it makes sense to go for the Living Legends. That's the one that might actually just end the game. But it doesn't matter. I mean, Koa is pretty likely to just fire off the Pursuit of Perfection on the following turn, do a Vengeance check, and Pukaru at the moment just doesn't have it.
Doesn't have it at all. Pukaru really. This turn, they were looking to top deck Maokai. Next turn, they're looking to top deck the Vengeance and just praying right now that they have an answer.
Does it hurt?
I mean, Hate Spike into Seraphine is going to play. The Spell Shield on the Husk going to stop the High Note from saving that, but what's the... I guess Undergrowth is going to take it out, or it would if not for that Transfusion.
We're seeing Pukaru here tossing. The issue with tossing here is if Pukaru has been counting, they know Koa has played 20 unique cards, right? So, no,
yeah,
don't
the
listen to me.
Vengeance is on the bottom of your deck.
Tossing goes
really
from the bottom.
matter.
Tossing goes from the bottom. Oh my days.
Everybody forgets that. I remember back in the Go Hard days, people were like, "Oh, you're gonna toss your Go Hards." It's like they were at the bottom of my deck.
Yeah,
I was never going to draw those. Soul Harvest is not Vengeance. If Koa lets it rip, that's going to be lethal. Timer is up, though.
Play the Big Cat. Will we see the Furminator ending this game?
The Furminator.
The Furminator,
I've
yes.
never actually heard that one before.
It's a personal favorite of mine. I don't even call it by its real name anymore. I only call it the Furminator.
A little push or a big one.
Okay, yeah, you can hate spike all you want, Pukaru.
It draws from Grave Companion.
Let's see if it's a Vengeance.
Could be the Vengeance.
It's another
third
Watery Grave, which...
Wait, Koa has 17 cards in their deck, I believe, because they draw 2 of Janna.
That's awesome. You still died a Pursuit of Perfection.
Yeah, but they can hope.
I hope that Koa forgets to attack with the 30-30 Overwhelm.
Yeah, but Pukaru can be like, well, one more turn I would have won. At least it's a moral victory to them instead of an actual victory. But as Koa now, terrified of a Vengeance, which is why they're playing all these units now, but just going to swing in with the large lad and seal. Game 1 goes to Koa.
Now, I do have a concern here, Rory. That game took quite some time. There's only about 28 minutes left on the clock, and there's still more control mirrors to be played. Pukaru still has to win with that Evelyn Maokai. Then they have to turn around. If they can win that game, they're not going to have a whole lot of time left to win War Mother's Call, Aurelion Soul versus Karma Set.
Well, the thing is, I was wondering if you actually jam ramp this time round. Because you can play ramp a lot faster than Evelyn Maokai if you get a slightly stronger hand.
Either way, you've got to win with both of the decks. I don't think the order in which you do it matters as much.
I'm just thinking timer-wise.
You think you can just like play faster actions with the War Mothers if that is the game 3-1 where the timer actually matters?
I think Koa under pressure from Evelyn Maokai when it comes to a timer is much more important than under pressure from ramping.
Which I guess is
the key
when you want to see Pukaru queue up this deck second, right? You want them to take like 20 minutes to win with this, play the Asol in game number 3. So double Maokai in the opener again. Pukaru played a little bit loose with them last game, might have bit them a little bit too hard, but now Koa got a slow hand to match, and not actually any removal for the Maokais or Evelyns in the early game thus far.
I'm just looking for the deck now. Isn't running Rocket Barrage in this Karma set list? So lacking one of the key removals, has drawn both our Aftershocks. Oh no, running 3 Aftershocks actually. There's one more left in the deck. Koa choosing not to high note isn't scared of a Husk beatdown. Right here, it was quite clear, but if you can get that spell shield here, you have to decide whether that's going on the Evelynn or the Maokai, and I prefer the Maokai as Evelynn does have that last caress available to her.
Looks like Pukaru is going to agree. Maokai comes down a little bit more of a threat than usual as a 3-5 here. And Hate Spike still available if, you know, something comes out to threaten the domination. Pukaru really wants to get that toss out this turn, but I think they can kind of take their time. It's going to be, what, 3 spells minimum out of Koa to actually kill this Maokai?
And it's sinking so many resources in. Koa thinking, do I commit Aftershock, Mystic Shot, High Note? Oh, wow, that's rough.
3 spells right on the stack to deal with this Maokai, and that is going to severely hamper the removal that Koa has available for the remainder of the game. Set does such a good job at threatening the Maokai and Evelynn once he's leveled, but Koa, or Pukaru rather, thinking about a Hate Spike here.
Hate Spike to get the Husk generation for leveled Eve next turn. Rolls Impact, probably the worst one you could have rolled in this matchup, to be honest. But what's really cool is if Pukaru actually chooses Sea Scarab next turn, if that Husk pushes Sea Scarab out of Aftershock range.
And Koa doesn't have a lot to go off of. Not surprised to see the open pass.
Eve.
Really doesn't want to toss down below Mixologist. Pukaru going to go for the Evelynn. It's going to be a 6-6 with Impact for the time being. Obviously going to go back down on the following turn. But another Impact. This could be some big damage from this Evelynn next turn.
Luckily for Koa, they do have very strong healers. In the term of the 3 attack, I've forgotten her name, but the 4-mana 3/4 can do a decent job at blocking Evelynn early. Quick attack.
Gonna keep the Evelynn
Going
healthy.
over to Pukaru's attack turn means just jam the Sea Scarab here. Start that tossing early.
I was wondering if Pukaru just valued more of having like a 4/4 domination and sort of forgoing the Maokai here and just going for a beatdown plan, but that's not going to be the case. Evelynn gonna flip back over, get the impact, get the quick attack.
I think it's quite hard to go for a beatdown line of play when Koa is running 5 recalls and Palm. So trying to get in massive swings with this Evelynn is just it's a bit hopeful, and they're definitely going for this cycle through your deck, get that Watery Grave out playstyle instead.
So if playing with the Merum, debating, do I want to draw, do I want spell mana here, how do I deal with this board right now, because at the moment 7, 8, 9 damage threatened on the attack if Koa doesn't get out another blocker here.
Quite a hard decision because Koa actually wants most of these cards in their hand. They need the tag out to protect Karma.
Aftershock gonna be the ship for the spell mana, no less.
Going for spell mana might just formula here, or even if they're feeling very desperate, they can place your bets. But typically, you're wanting to hold place your bets for Karma's turn, or when she's leveled. We'll be able to put down the Mixologist to stem the bleeding now, but Pukaru is just slowly running away with this game, I feel. If this is something good like Tough or Spell Shield, Pukaru can just jam Maokai.
It is tough, and the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking that Pukaru actually should be looking at Beatdown as a plan A in a game like this. When you're against Karma's set, you know, like in theory, yeah, it's a control deck, it's not killing me fast, I have time to get off my Watery Grave Maokai combo. The problem is that the Watery Grave Maokai combo does not say win the game on it. And so you give your opponent the opportunity to like run out of Karma back into the deck, and if you have to wait until turn 10 to do it, Karma is shuffling in 2 Karmas. That's not something that you're going to be able to beat unless you have a second Watery Grave, at which point you're up against Notify and Deny.
Very fair point. I just want to see one deny, one notify. So, yeah, there are definitely answers to it. Not many compared to summoners that run 3 denies, but Pukaru. The more I think about it, yeah, maybe you do just put tough onto this lifesteal husk and go wide with well-started units. No, instead going for these mega husks that domination will create.
Yeah, there's going to be 2-3 husks coming out now, buffing up everything to massive proportions, and Set is available, but Set can really only go after domination. Pukaru has vengeance, while the Set won't die. It will not kill the domination either, if that's the case.
And if Pukaru is able to force out this tag out here, it's so valuable because it means your Eve no longer is threatened. Passing here when you have a champ like Set feels bad. So yeah, just picking up a domination.
Redebating. I don't see a reason to go after the 2-2 domination rather than the 3-3, unless Koa's really afraid of undergrowth, but actually is just going to take a pass.
And because Pukaru's board was full, it means we miss out on that elusive husk, which would have helped push a ton of damage. Now, we come to that point. They have Pukaru's well-started units, but swinging on an Eve with just impact as a keyword is a bit bad because you can get blocked by the 3-4 and then aftershocked.
28 out of 40 mana on the Set means they can level this turn through coins and formula. Still a couple of turns off the Karma. And Pukaru, their board's in sort of a weird state where they've got these 2 really large hitters in the Sea Scarab and the Evelyn, but then the rest of their board is kind of cluttered with these utility units.
Do you realize who you're up against?
In the Deadbloom Wanderer here, going to be very hard to remove with that 3 HP and tough. 2 Watery Graves down. That's a bit scary.
This is going to give... I mean, Koa's kind of got the green
lives.
light to just, like, draw as much as possible now. 9 lives, a great defensive tool here, and I'm not really sure Koa was too worried about their life total in the first place.
No, but Koa now has access to double formula into leveled Set.
Yeah, and there's also going to be a showstopper coming out this turn. Not going to get a whole lot in terms of the wipe. You know, that additional 1 damage to the remainder of the board, but will be able to obliterate the Evelyn, which will, for what it's worth, not toss off Sea Scarab.
No, it won't toss off Sea Scarab. It's also your main husk generator, which really makes these dominations significantly weaker.
Actually looking to just take out the Sea Scarab itself, and it looks like that's going to be the Glimpse Beyond out of Pukaru. And there... Koa could deny the draw by using a recall, but recalling the Sea Scarab does not feel good.
No, especially if you recall the Sea Scarab here, it means round end, Eve gets another husk onto board, which Sea Scarab can then eat at the beginning of next turn.
Looks like it's going to be Vengeance onto the Set, actually.
So forcing out the recall here means Pukaru is free to do Glimpse Beyond if they do want to. As Flow wasn't hit last turn, that Unworthy Soul isn't cheaper.
And Koa's not actually going to have an opportunity to play the coins pre-combat, as this was their action everybody was fighting over. Priority back over to Pukaru. They can go straight into combat now, and it's going to be a full onslaught. Lethal presented.
No longer mana for 9 lives, since coin was moved to focus all those patches ago.
You could use a drink.
Looks like it's going to be 9 damage coming in at Koa. No, rearranging a little bit more, just kind of seeing what everything looks like. What's the difference between 9 damage and 14 damage amongst friends? 3 coins in the hand for Koa means that next turn we're looking at an absolute disaster of a Set. Actually, Set could even just come back down this turn and make another showstopper.
Yeah, he could. That's a very fair point, actually. And maybe that's why we're seeing this ordering of dropping the Grave Companion to 1 HP, is because that's Koa's game plan. Using the AoE wipe from Showstopper.
Beautiful setup for the Showstopper here.
Wouldn't wanna
But
miss a
with
second
no
catch.
healing such as Tailstones, well, you have Portal Pioneer, but we don't have any of that in hand. We might see that 2 HP just seals the deal. But we're approaching Karma turn.
Yeah, there's no way for Showstopper to come out this turn. Karma at 9 out of 10 on the level up. Thank you, production. I told them that I always wanted to see whenever we're playing Karma, I want to see the 9 out of 10 level up on Karma, just to remind everyone what is going to be in store next turn, because if Pukaru doesn't get it done now, this feels like it'll be the end of the game. Obviously, there is still the possibility for the Maokai level up into the Watery Grave, but Pukaru doesn't currently have the Watery Grave, and without that, I think with Karma instead available, Koa could probably fight through just a Maokai level up.
I do want to add, there is one Watery Grave left in Pukaru's deck. We've only seen 2 tossed so far. So it could be a top deck for the ages. Because I don't know. I don't know how you beat down Koa right now. Because with Karma on board, you have in a burst speed 4 blockers from 9 lives, plus all the damage you bring. It's incredibly tense right now. Set swinging in just for free removal.
This means that there is a draw available for Pukaru with that Husk living. Grave Companion could gobble that up. Only at 19 out of 25 on the Maokai. That's actually
That's really low. It's much lower
quite
than
a
I was
hill to get
expecting. over. Husk will push that to 20, and then you get 3 off of the Undergrowth.
So
it's not great.
If Maokai can get 1 sapling out, then that would be enough to get them over the hump. But it's kind of a big ask, and Koa has redrawn the Aftershock, does have Maokai removal at the moment.
And what's really interesting is if Koa decides to just play Karma here and use the Unworthy Soul to recall in answer to a Vengeance, you can do that line. Also, if you play Karma and Pukaru goes, oh, now's my chance to play Maokai. Earlier, you updrafted the Aftershock, so you have enough damage in your hands to kill the Maokai instantly.
Pukaru is really thinking about this. Am I leaving Vengeance open to threaten a Karma? Am I playing Grave Companion? Am I playing Eris for the Husk? Am I playing Maokai? Just so many options. Does end up going for the Grave Companion for the draw. Turn this into a 3-6 challenger. Gets another Evelyn.
Not really what you're looking for here.
Where there is life, there is hope.
Karma's dropping unanswered. I wonder if Pukaru just fires off Quietus here onto the 3-1, just saying, I need board control, at least a little bit of board control.
Love the option for it next round. We're going to see the Karma level up, and it looks like it was Discord that was, or the Violent Discord that is generated by the Karma here.
Pretty low tier as far as Karma spell generation goes.
It's not a dud, you know?
No,
that's something, I guess.
So Pukaru has guaranteed Maokai level up here.
Yes.
With the the Dead Bloom Wanderer.
Yeah, where Pukaru goes from there is a little more questionable, and it looks like actually just going straight into combat with the Grave Companion,
this is
lining
really
up the
cool.
Undergrowth as well.
So here, if Koa tries to recall the Karma, you can just Vengeance over the top. And then if we force out the Deny, it opens up Watery Grave as a game win.
What?
Karma's life is under duress at the moment. Koa has the recall, an expensive one at that, is going to use it on the Grave Companion, and now it's a matter of, does Pukaru fire off the Vengeance in response, or are they just going to go for the tossing? It is going to fire it off. No Watery Grave tossed, so it's still
in
available. Place your bet's going to get used here, anticipating the Maokai
Oh
level
no!
up.
Another Karma's been found. Watery Grave no longer available as a game ender.
Yeah, that feels like that's just going to do it here, Rory.
And this Eve Maokai deck that has been designed to counter control is falling to the hands of Set. Karma able to stick around and outvalue, and Pukaru just wasn't able to kill enough Husks to toss enough cards, end the game early enough.
And it feels really bad that, Pukaru came in with this very unique deck, very confident in it, and then goes 0-2 on it in the first tiebreaker into the kind of decks that you expect that they wanted to see.
Yeah, this is exactly what they designed. And now it's about 40% chance of drawing Water Grave next turn, but it just doesn't matter. After tossing 3? Okay. The stats disagree with me, but that's fine.
We are at the very least going to get to see the Maokai level up come out. Again, does not really matter. There is that Karma's Insight of Ages in the hand, and Aftershock going to be used to kill the Maokai immediately, stop the blockers from coming through. And Koa doesn't quite have lethal on the next turn, but okay, thinking about it, no, he is going to commit the Aftershock. Thanks to the cost reduction, you do still have the mana for the Karma spell. And Pukaru doesn't have Watery Grave mana right now anyway.
I was just thinking, so Koa has the coins to fully remove Pukaru's board, and then has lethal on the swing, exact lethal on the swing, if my maths is right. I hope it is. Yeah, that's 18 in attack. Pukaru will be forced to use Vengeance next.
Pukaru can also develop their Eris as a blocker here, take the lethal off the table, at least for the time being, make Koa play out a couple more cards next turn, but again, it doesn't really matter because there's no way for Pukaru, even if the Watery Grave comes out and Koa tapped below the Karma spell, there's no way for Pukaru to force Koa to draw a card to actually end the game there.
Yeah, it does feel like Pukaru is living on borrowed time right now. As see another Undergrowth. Gonna be, unfortunately, just a delaying tool. Kill off for 3-1.
This is going to be a hard about minute and a half of watching these players play out their cards before inevitably Koa does find the lethal. Or
I'm not emotionally prepared for the Undergrowth to recall that's about to come out.
It's not lethal yet. Vengeance would force a tag out that would deny the showstopper lethal. Actually, okay, hold on. Check it. Vengeance,
I think it's just
Karma.
You just let Karma die here. Actually,
if you let Karma die here,
you don't in case Water Grave, because
and this tag out is actually going to get shut down by the Undergrowth.
But you have another Karma in hand with coins, so it's not the end of the world.
But if Pukaru then top decks Watery Grave,
yes. Ooh, it's a point. It's a fair point.
Koa might have gotten a little jumpy with the Merum, actually. That was another tool that they had to put a card back in their deck.
Oh, and now another heal coming through means Koa won't be able to beat down the Nexus health this turn.
Okay, yeah, Koa gonna say, I need some randomly generated cards. Are any of them going to do it for me? None of these save the Karma.
There's 2 draw cards there that you can't use. Because Maokai's already leveled.
It's gonna be heartbreaking, though. Oh, there goes the Watery Grave.
Means Koa is now sitting pretty in a dominant position here. 2 more Karmas in the deck. Very high chances of drawing her next turn. As long as Koa doesn't deck themselves with a ton of draw spells by accident, I think this is the end.
Yeah. Level 2 Evelyn not actually generating a Husk means there's not even the potential for, the elusive Husk coming through and, pushing 1 damage with the Grave Companion?
Yeah.
Come on, the people paid for a show.
Gonna take out the Grave Companion again, folks. As we mentioned, gonna be a hard. What we thought was gonna be a minute and a half, probably extending more to like 5.
Oh no, the showstopper's coming out as well.
Oh man.
And he fought for it to the very end, but Pukaru will have their show stopped here, as the set spell is about to slam down this Evelyn, and a massive board will destroy the Nexus.
And at this point, you got to be wondering, what if this was Jack Zorn?
Are we just going to do that for every match from now on?
Anytime somebody brings anything slightly off meta and loses with it, you're just going to have to think, what if this was Jack Zorn?
this isn't just off meta though. This is Pukaru's best performing deck of the last lineup.
Not
Of the
anymore.
last open even. So it's not unwarranted that they picked it twice.
Unfortunately, not going to work into what Koa has brought, and now Pukaru's chances of Worlds slightly out of their hands. Pukaru would still have to beat the third player coming into their head-to-head, but also needs Koa to lose that head-to-head, which actually I believe still results in Koa going to Worlds. So Pukaru might be totally out with a 2-0 loss to Koa. But I'm not,
unfortunately. But
I'm not
they
100% sure on that,
fighting.
so I'm not gonna like sell that as fact here. You know, we're just spitballing
crazy
a little
could
bit.
happen. I don't know the rules if there's a shrooms tie or something and all the scores get messed up. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the last two games. Now we've got Kuro versus Pisu coming up just after the break. Will Pisu be running back this Evelyn Maokai and try and find some success for it? This tiebreaker will only be a few minutes. Grab a cuppa and meet us back here. welcome back to the world's tiebreaker. My name's Rory B. Alongside me is Boulevard, and we've just watched our first series of the day with Koa taking down Pukaru 2-0. Unfortunately, Pukaru's Evelyn Maokai deck was not able to conquer the meta decks that Koa had brought. But now, we're into a new match. Hisu is looking for redemption going into Kuro.
Yeah, and this might be... Again, we kind of theorized that Pukaru was looking to play control decks with their Karma Maokai, or their Evelyn. Sorry, someone topped with Karma Maokai like 6 months ago, and now it's just stuck in my head that if you're playing Maokai Mill, it's Karma Maokai. Was unable to find the wins in the control matchups, and now is going to be against a little bit more of an expected deck in Kuro's lineup in the Jax Ornn. But we'll take a look at the full lineup here in a second. Remind everybody not only what is Pukaru playing, but introduce Kuro's deck for the first time, and then we'll get a little bit more into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, so Pukaru. This got banned last time around, which I'm not surprised by, because I actually think this Puffcat Peddler is a sleeper pick that a lot of these lineups aren't designed, well, at least Koa's lineup wasn't designed to answer. Kuro, significantly better chances at answering something like a Seraphine set with these Poro King and Jax Ornn that we'll see later being designed to really take over these decks and just go over their heads.
This is also a lot less one-ofs than you expect to see in a Seraphine list. I think we were talking about this at the LCQ, but Pukaru also on this Aurelian Soul War Mother's Call. You can see, Wrath of the Freljord in here as a 3 of.
I don't normally see 3 of that. It's surprising to me, 3 of Wrath of the Freljord, but if you remember a few patches ago, Wrath did get touched a little in the buffs, and now Frostbite's a chosen unit on drop, and that can make a great defensive tool.
Every time they've buffed a card to just like Frostbite something, it's turned out pretty well. And then here again is the star of the show for the day, the Evelyn Maokai, the most unique deck that we've seen.
Is an interesting quote.
It's got a spotlight on it. It's not exactly shining and doing much with that spotlight, but this is definitely where the spotlight is pointed.
Yeah, the spotlight's pointed off stage right now, just trying to shimmer this deck away into the darkness. But I think it has legs. I think it can do work. Maybe Pukaru's not happy with their mulligan, but I thought it was pretty decent, the opening hand. They were getting their champions in the last series. Now onto Kuro, much more of a standard Seraphine set list. Like you mentioned, a lot more one-offs.
A lot more one-ofs. A Pursuit of Perfection is the win condition, whereas like that might be something that Pukaru's list struggles with a little bit. Without that Pursuit, there's not like a clear-cut win condition. Set and Seraphine don't synergize as well as Set and Karma as much as the late game, for the late game takeover. But this is a list that we already saw Pukaru struggle with Janna Seraphine, so Ionia Seraphine probably not going to do much better. And then now we've got Winding Light. So actually, just Winding Light instead of Zolani as the top end for the Poros.
I actually like this a lot. Because instead of sacking your units for maybe bad trades to empower your Zolani, you're actually trading and building a wider board to allow for a Winding Light end. I really like it.
It is more consistent, right? This is going to be a much better finisher if you don't get those early snacks to pump up the Zolani. And then Jax Ornn, Rory B, do you have anything interesting that you want to say about Jax Ornn?
The Sharesies is cool. You can, if you have 8 mana available, you can Wild Claw's Ferocity into a Sharesies and go for a swing your opponent wasn't expecting. But apart from that, it's pretty cookie cutter from what we've been seeing for the last, 3-4 months. Since Glacial Sorin was released, basically, with Heart of the Huntress.
Pretty much, yeah. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time to Legends of Runeterra, I don't believe you. You picked a really weird first broadcast to tune into, so our apologies for not explaining Jax Ornn in great and excruciating detail.
He doesn't even have to think about careful hits now. He just swings and levels. It's great, right? I love Jax. Right, we're looking at these lineups now, and Pukaru... I wouldn't be surprised if Jax Ornn just gets banned out, because the high rolls and momentum plays you can make off of that deck are so nuts compared to Poro King, which really you're hoping for an early Poro Snacks. If you don't find it, you can be significantly delayed. And Seraphine Set is just a naturally slower deck as well.
I am a little concerned for Pukaru in that the Poro King's place in the meta is as a really good stalwart to control lineups, which is exactly what Pukaru has brought. It's really difficult for you to fight through the Poros, and it is actually going to be the ban from Pukaru. We'll see what Kuro has their sights on, and it's going to be the Evelyn Maokai, which is now locked in at 0-2 for this event.
Yeah, 0-2. It's still ban-worthy, which really means Kuro is scared of it compared to Ramp going over the top of your head or Set beating you down. Now, the true question for Game 1 is, will we see the mirror? Because I really hope not, because I hate this mirror, but I'm sure we will find out in due time.
There are decks that I love playing and hate casting, and Seraphine is a prime example of something like that, especially Seraphine Mirrors. It just gets really confusing to try and narrate through it, but we're actually going to get the other decks. We're going to have the Aurelian Soul War Mother's Call up against Jax Ornn for game number 1.
And Kuro's mulligans are quite interesting here, because all of these cards are fine. I don't like Sherzies. I think you should get rid of Sherzies here. It doesn't have much value. But I don't mind keeping the Glacial Saurian for just a lot of draw. Gonna hit the Innovative Blacksmith here. So actually, Kuro has a pretty nice line here to try and counter Pukaru before they run away with the match.
This is one of the big pressure points of Jax Ornn, is these utility 1-drops, finding them on curve, really push the issue on turn 3 with that additional Forge. All of a sudden, yeah, you know, it's turn 3, I've got 3 spell mana and a 5/3 with a keyword that's relevant. The Avalanche can no longer take it out. It's really not a worry. And we're going to see the Wild Mysticism come out with token for Pukaru. Kuro now going to choose between the Castaway and the Innovative Blacksmith. Is going to pick the Castaway. Pot of Pain and Fishawhack, both great weapons to kick things off.
Ooh, so Pan of Pain, because you're getting Forged, will mean Castaway survives the Avalanche. So yeah, that makes sense to pick up now. I want to put something on the table that's quite interesting. She Who Wanders, because Weapon Masters forge when they go into combat, they have naturally very low attack, which means any Weapon Masters in Kuro's hand when She Who Wanders drops will be completely obliterated.
On top of the fact that a 10-10 regeneration is very difficult for Jax Ornn to actually kill, it's kind of going to have to be early pressure around it, and the Shepherd's Authority is phenomenal for something like that.
I really wouldn't be surprised if we just see a Celestial Wonder. I think it's Celestial Wonder. Dropping and just slowing down this hulking advance of these Weapon Masters here.
This is actually like an insane amount of ramp in this list, and I actually... Oh. Okay,
wow.
I misread what cold resistance does. I thought it was frostbite. I get cold resistance confused all the time with the frostbite thrall spell versus this one, because you never really see either of them.
But both terrible spells in their own right. I'll go on paper and say that. But Pukaru now actually only 1 turn off of War Mothers. Has double Celestial Wonder in hand, so can just slow down. But Kuro draws Jax here, and it's just so much damage on board. Cold resistance coming down. And that's the turn.
Yeah, that's the problem with She Who Wanders. It's a phenomenal tool to take out everything in your opponent's hand, but you do still have the board to deal with, and now is it Jax plus...
It's Jax plus Blacksmith, I'm pretty sure.
It's that or Glacial Saurian, but I do like going wide a little bit more when you're up against... I mean, we can see Pukaru's pretty likely to survive the next turn anyway, through the Harsh Winds and the stuns, but after that, She Who Wanders isn't getting much value.
If Kuro does drop Jax here, it does put him up for Avalanche, but obviously has so much mana banked that can bluff a Sky Splitter.
I also think you'd be quite happy to see your opponent fire off the Avalanche here if you just run out Jax and then it's like, okay, none of my board died.
Especially as they can't double Harsh Winds or Harsh Winds plus Celestial Wonder then, if that is the case.
I think Kuro's pretty safe to go wide here rather than tall, but actually is going to take the Glacial Saurian and find another Glacial Saurian.
It's a nesting doll of lizards right now, as we're seeing even more development. Kuro doesn't like spells. That's just what we can establish here as...
And Kuro's really pretty safe to go wide here because there's no Volibear that could come out and threaten a couple of these units while developing a big blocker.
I'm just checking. I don't think Buried in Ice is run by Pukaru, which is why Kuro is so happy. It's not. And wow, that is significant when it comes to a swing. I wonder if Pukaru actually preemptively stunned some of these weapon masters to delay Jax. I believe Jax is at 11 of 16 right now.
Yes, which means if you stunned and harsh wind pre-combat, Jax won't level.
Yes, Jax is at 11. Fortunately, the She Who Wanders just does nothing to deal with this board if Pukaru wants to drop it next turn. It will eliminate Kuro's entire hand.
Yeah, that's sort of the problem with She Who Wanders, is that, yeah, it obliterates everything in the hand, but what about the board? And the board is the part that's killing you, and, you know, it doesn't... It's a play effect, not a summon effect, so you can't really get the War Mother's Call train going, hit a She Who Wanders, and wipe out the hand while the War Mother sort of stabilizes you on board.
This was why I was so concerned about not banning Jax Ornn, is that it can just run away with games if you can pick up this unit-based momentum of getting an early good forged weapon early into just these insane 4 and 5 drops.
For what it's worth, Pukaru did mulligan almost their entire hand and didn't find an avalanche, so might have just died to Poros as well.
Yeah, definitely agree with that, but Poros you need to play a lot more cautiously into Freljord, so maybe the game would have been a lot slower.
Either way, that's not quite the universe we live in, and Kuro has lethal represented. Pukaru has to use both a Harsh Winds and a stun, or double stun, in order to survive into the next turn, and from there, not really sure what the plan is. Again, none of the board is actually going to get dealt with here. The first Harsh Winds comes out, that's still lethal damage. A block means that's still lethal damage, and now Celestial Wonder's going to come out, putting Pukaru down to 3.
And yeah, it doesn't matter how many times you buff War Mother's Call, it still can be a really big low roll if you just don't have the tempo, as we're seeing 3 generated here. So, because War Mother's Call does give a unit now and turn start, this Celestial Wonder will actually protect Pukaru for another turn, I believe. No, because they're 1 unit short, actually. Never mind that one.
Yeah, there's still, you know,
1 unit
more
short.
protection that they can draw another Celestial Wonder, another Harsh Wind, something along those lines, but it really does just have to be more of what they already had.
Ooh,
and
huge, actually.
okay, little bit of...
That's another 3 if a Titanic unit is summoned next turn start.
I am a little concerned about the 3 Cosmic Younglings in Pukaru's deck coming out of this War Mother's Call. That's always the risk that you run when you include these small units in these lists. And, you know, we'll even see some players playing the Explorer. And, you know, that's all it takes sometimes. Actually going for the Omen Hawk rather than the Glacial Saurian, or maybe just buffing up the unit, then overwriting it with the Glacial Saurian to get a double buff onto Ornn of all cards.
Only 2 Harsh Winds left and 1 Celestial Wonder. There are no other freezes available for Pukaru, but finds another stun. Hey, that's great.
I don't know that it's enough, just because there's, you know, 3rd Glacial Saurian, an 8/8 Ornn in hand.
Look, it's not ideal, but it's something, right?
It is
it's the
something.
reach. It's the reach that could help.
Survival through savagery.
You're gonna have to sack these Veil Protectors here.
And it's so awkward because, like, Pukaru doesn't have to use both stuns, but does have to use 1 stun. And even just using 1 stun is enough to take you off of the rest of your turn.
And what feels absolutely awful here is if Kuro has Sharesies in hand, it's just a win, right?
Not through the double stun.
Not for double stun, but if you're blocking like... No, I think it can, right? Okay, so we're seeing trades come out. 1 Veil Protector drops, 1 Saurian drops. But Kuro is very happy to rebuild a board because they've just got Legion for a hand right now. Kuro, what do you want to do next turn? Do you just drop the She Who Wanders? I feel Asol is a little too slow.
I'm trying to think of what... Like, Asol could grab Supernova, but that's not coming down until the following turn.
Yeah.
It does force an open attack out of Kuro, And Pisakaru will be 5 wide, so maybe that's worth it.
With that stun coming onto Kuro's Jax this turn, it means Ornn isn't leveled, which is great. It means won't be summoning the Ram.
Oh, that's
that could actually be terrible, because if you
the
drop She
board being
Wonders
full.
here, the board is full from the Frozen Thralls, and we're seeing a Sherzy's picked up here.
Well, if you drop
well.
She Who Wanders, you obliterate your own Veiled Protector, which will free up a board space. But unfortunately,
there
those
is
Thralls
that,
are
yeah.
not going to be down for the next turn. And actually, it's going to be a Soul coming out, and it does grab Supernova. So this is going to force the open attack from Kuro. But it's 4 blockers versus 6. Nothing able to come off the top because the board is full. 1 stun available, 8 health and 10 health versus a couple of Overwhelm units. Ornn isn't leveled. I think there's a chance Pisakaru holds on again.
A pretty dead draw there from the Saurian. Out.
I think
Kuro still has 1 Harsh Winds in the deck, remember.
I think this is where Sherzy seals it.
Yes, Sherzy's onto the Jax weapon will give Overwhelm. Kuro
It would
has
have
to
been another
open
Veiled
attack.
Protector.
Cold Resistance not going to do anything. I think the healing from Veil Protector might have actually clutched this here. But Ornn has now forged that Starth of Acacia 3 times, so it's +3 plus Overwhelm for the Sherzies. Don't think it matters. I think Kuro is actually 1 off lethal.
I'm going to take your word for it, because trying to remember exactly what Sherzy's does is someone's problem who isn't me.
Sherzy's puts a weapon from one of your units to another unit, but the unit that lost the weapon maintains the stats and the keywords for that turn.
Which means that if the double stun comes out onto Jax and Ornn, the Ornn weapon is strong, but it's not going to put this 10 attack onto the combat cook, because a lot of those stats are coming from the Shepherd's Authority. It won't be enough.
Yes, very true. So Pisakaru is actually only taking about 4 or 5 in that case of a Sherzy's.
At which point, I think Pisakaru
Might run away with this.
be able to stabilize here. I mean, Supernova is a phenomenal tool against Jax Ornn.
And now with so many units dying on Kuro's end, this She Who Wonders has so much extra value because it can just wipe out the board.
That's gotta be it. I mean, Supernova gets to take out both champions. It's kind of the end of the turn for Pisakaru here, even with the Moonsilver, but next turn, She Who Wanders can get played to fill out the board, and there goes Kuro's hand. There goes the chances, and back from the brink is Pisakaru.
I was ready to write off Pukaru right here about 4 turns ago, but just drawing all their stuns managed to keep them in the match. We got 2 Thralls being summoned next turn as well.
I don't think... I think Kuro's just dead once the She Who Wanders come down. That's actually going to eliminate the board, or at least most of it. A couple of the weapons can still be equipped here. Sherzy's, I guess, can save another unit, but at that point, like, Kuro doesn't have any more threats.
Can only save Weaponsmith, I believe, because it kills anything 4 and below.
And I just see a lot of units still getting up just to 4 attack.
Kuro can save 2 units right now.
Second Aurelian Soul. This has gotta just be lethal.
Will we see it? Will we see?
No reason not to. Show me the bail site.
And we're seeing She Who Wins coming through, just obliterating Kuro's chances at getting this game won. As we're seeing the large lads swinging on in. You know, just taking the Nexus down to a tidy -37. Game 1 goes to Pukaru.
And a strong finish from Pisakaru after what looked like a very precarious early game.
Very scary.
We were very concerned about sort of the War Mother's RNG. They hit all 3 Veiled Protectors, managed to duck all of the Cosmic Younglings, and Bowdeer the Blackened Ice, that new card from the Variety Patch, coming in really clutch there at the end of the game, not just for the defensive capabilities, but for the lethal as well. And now we're probably going to have to see a Set Seraphine mirror at some point. So for Pisukaru's Set Seraphine specifically, 3 copies of the Explorer, no copies of Unworthy Soul.
No Unworthy Soul, and the Explorer is just a bit slow if you're using it to purely remove equipment here. But no Weapon Masters in Kuro's hand right now. Probably going to mulligan away the Pioneer and the Three Sisters. Don't need them anytime soon. Might even mulligan away the Omen Hawk if they feel like it. No, keeping Pioneer. Oh, they're keeping Pioneer for the Sunken Temple removal, of course.
Oh, okay, there's Jax. That's a pretty strong card to get as the draw for turn for Kuro.
Do you drop Jax here when you have no defensive spells and you're into the Mystic Shot region? Yes,
apparently yes.
Yep, fair enough.
I was just thinking more in the capability of, like, Jax is a great card to have. You don't necessarily have to throw it down turn 2, but eventually that Jax is going to come out and be a problem. And Kuro actually thinking, yeah, I'm willing to trade some damage onto the Seraphine with it.
Yeah, obviously Jax Ornn, if you've never seen it before, doesn't run any burn or damage outside of unit damage, so completely fine to trade with a Seraphine here, especially when you have that recall retreat. Oh, yeah.
Kuro can just stick with the curve, right? Throw down another Apprentice.
Yeah, why not?
Get the weapons going.
You've got that Entrancing Lure as well to take out this Seraphine, or attempt to take out the Seraphine. Now, Pisukaru's hand is just all protection, and I'd be very surprised if Shepherd's Authority, wasn't the weapon of choice here.
Yeah, a couple of good options again from Kuro. Ornn just to sort of solidify the late game for Kuro, but Pisukaru's not doing too bad for themselves either. A couple of recalls, a couple of stuns, Set joins the party, and the board for Kuro, not as threatening as it was in the previous game at this stage.
Not as threatening, no. Not at all even. Now, will we see an Entrancing Lure come out to take out the Seraphine? Kuro knows there's so much recall that Pisukaru has available.
It also... The Entrancing Lure does take away the rest of Kuro's turn unless they draw a 2-drop here, which they actually do in the Favored Artisan. Again, Kuro just does not like drawing spells.
Doesn't like drawing spells at all. Challenging with the Jax to get as much base damage as possible here. Seraphine, we'll see if she generates a good spell or not.
Not a bad one.
Yes, pretty, as far as they go, a pretty good 2-drop spell.
And now with Pisukaru having the token, it's the choice between Set and Sunken Temple. It looks like Sunken Temple is going to be the play, and that is going to fish for the Explorer, and Kuro has it.
Oh dear, oh dear. You see the rock, paper, scissors come out of Explorer Temple, nothing.
Yeah, no Pafai to save this one either.
And that's going to feel really bad for Pisukaru here. As we might actually just see the Favored Artisan developed as well. Yeah, just try and get as wide as a swing as possible as you're pulling Seraphine's high HP to the side anyway.
This is going to be a Jax level up as well.
This.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Doesn't do anything. Jax will have to be palmed if they don't want to take 6 damage from him.
Kuro probably just debating if they forge before going into combat here.
I don't think it's necessary, strictly, because Jax gets HP from other Weapon Masters on his attack.
I think the forge here is more about setting up the Ornn on the following turn. You know, you might as well push the damage with whichever weapon you decide to, put on the Ornn, and just kind of debating, do I want the Jax weapon, or do I want the Shepherd's Authority? Do I value the stats more, or the Overwhelm? Ornn's not going to be leveled either way.
Yeah, if we do Forge Jax, I believe he's going to 7 attack, so 1 off that Ornn level. Timer's ticking down. Going a lot faster than last series, I can say that at least.
I'm still debating it is going to finally lock in that Forge on the Jax.
Yeah, and you know what? Also for me.
Flashes his bicep and just swings straight in. 7-5. Just going to get instantly palmed.
I'll tell you, Rory, for my LCQ headshot, I ended up imitating Ornn. but I was trying to imitate Jax. I cannot get his stance down. He's got his body turned in a weird way with his legs in an odd position, his biceps flexing everywhere. I'm like, I can't do this.
He hasn't got the etymology for you to... that's the wrong word. He doesn't have the... anatomy, thank you. He doesn't have the anatomy for you to try and recreate. But to be fair, he is a troll, or like, kind of a troll. So, I don't expect you to be able to fully recreate him.
This is not the matchup I think Pukaru was hoping for with that Puff Cap Peddler tech. Yeah, it's going to go for another tag out. And Omen Hawk off the Glacial Saurian.
Please tell me, for this photo, did you have the lamppost as well? Did you go full into character? Or just
I don't have a lamppost. I had a barbell.
Oh, excellent. Right. Okay. So you're proper trying to flex for the camera.
I was trying, you know. Just couldn't get it down. Couldn't figure out how those legs work. But now, Pukaru, drawing the Explorer, has a couple of options on like what weapon is going to get taken out. Has recalls, has stuns. Unfortunately, probably just not going to have the mana to do everything they need next turn.
Set can take Jax out here, which could be very impactful for later on.
Sherzies could save Jax if it's just Set coming in after it.
Got a whetstone? Gotta sharpen my glass.
Oh, just seeing.
Open with a high note on the Explorer,
here.
yeah. This...
I'm surprised because I felt Pukaru might want to save that for later on to double up when Seraphine is leveled. Seeing the destroy equipment here. Wonder if we bank that for Ornn, to be honest. Yeah. Kuro doesn't care.
Yeah, Kuro's saying, okay, I need to actually get a second copy of this Light of Acacia before the first one gets popped so that I can get the Overwhelm onto my Ornn, and it's going to be a death of a Jax and then a pop onto the weapon of Ornn, so Pukaru once again doing a pretty okay, that's not right. 27 out of 9 new spells. Okay, that's what it was. Okay. I thought it was going to be 7 out of 9 new spells, and that's where the typo came in. But no, 27 out of 40 mana on the set does mean that can't level next turn. I'm trying to do formula math.
So Ornn can re-equip Jax's Light of Acacia next turn, and that forges twice and hits for 8. Gonna get stunned up anyway, so it doesn't matter. But wait, that Bellows Breath can do absolute work here and remove all of Pukaru's board.
Bellows Breath is horrifying. I think Pukaru can save 2 units, Guiding Touch on the set, and then a level up on the Seraphine. But that doesn't... It's such a low commitment play by Kuro that leaves such weak blockers on the side of Pukaru.
And I am actually fine with using Bellows Breath to not forge an equipment here. Just in case Pukaru has another Explorer in hand, or Tag Out, which would really stifle things. I think just get a chunky Ornn. You don't need to forge an equipment.
Stuff to do after this, you know.
There is the sort of awkward proposition where if Kuro plays an equipment and then plays Bellows Breath, they are taking themselves off of one of their other 3 drops if there is like a tag out or something onto the Ornn coming down in response to that.
You can Sharesies the equipment, but it doesn't feel as good.
It's like Kuro's going to go for potentially the Bellows Breath on the equipment. For now, it's just an equipment thrown in. We'll see how Pukaru wants to handle this. It might even just be like start off with a concussive palm onto the Ornn, which would take them off of tag out and be a little disastrous.
Yeah, if we see the preemptive concussive palm here, that's just another unit that's dying to Bellows Breath because either Set or Seraphine go down. Oh no, never mind. They have perfect mana for that. But it does mean the blocking gets a lot scarier.
We never actually confirmed if Seraphine's at 7 out of 9 either. It might be 8 out of 9. We just saw the typo on the set. I'm sure production will fly that for us in a second here, and we can all get a good idea of how this is going to play out in a couple of moments, if it will just take the Guiding Touch to level, or if one other unique spell would have to be committed to protect the board. It is 7 out of 9, so yeah, it's going to take the Guiding Touch +1.
I don't know why you don't just target the Omen Hawk, right, to push a little more extra damage. But I guess they're really scared of Saurian dying to high note. That would be my only guess. is that if you drop this Saurian down to 2 HP, you don't want to lose your Overwhelmer. You can always share these. You can always share these.
Nothing stops Sharesies.
Nothing stops Sharesies. Pukaru, how do you answer? You gotta level up your set. You gotta level up your Seraphine, but then you have very little mana left to play with. You can Concussive Palm as priority is passed. Even still, it's rough.
Yeah, the awkward part is Concussive Palm's already been played, so it doesn't count for the Seraphine level up. Neither does High Note, so it almost have to be like it's almost got to be a preemptive tag out plus Guiding Touch, as Retreat Return was the recall spell initially used to save the Seraphine.
Yeah. Gonna fish, maybe finds a good drop. Peddler won't really do it for Pukaru. I believe that's the tag out that was chosen. You get another Concussive Palm back into hand.
Okay, and the coin's going to be able to come out here to give the mana. Oh, actually, just 4 mana left for the palm regardless. I believe that puts Set at about 33. I've actually lost count. Don't take my word for that one. But this does leave 2 Overwhelm units on the side of Kuro. One of them going to get palmed, you would assume, pre-combat.
Yes, I expect Ornn, because he's forging to an 8/8, to get palmed here. Point only gives 1 more mana. Set
it was
a
33
while
out
off
of
of
40.
leveling. Doesn't feel that great.
No, and
Feel
with
like-
Set and Seraphine needing to be committed as blockers here, I'm not sure. Like, Pukaru doesn't have anything left in hand after that.
Feels very scary. Actually, I think that High Note had Seraphine's High Note, so...
We do run into the
Oh,
or
right with
Pukaru
that.
runs into the problem again, though, of, as we talked about in the deck selection process, this is not a traditional Seraphine set.
No,
There's no
it runs
pursuit of
many-
perfection in here. There's no one-game kill, or sort of one-card kill button, right? So even if Pukaru does manage to survive this turn, what is their avenue to victory if Set goes down?
Is prayer a fair answer? Or-
It might just have to be.
Yeah, but we are able to remove... Actually, wait, this might be lethal with Sharesies.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a great answer for this Glacial Saurian in terms of the health totals of what Pukaru has available on these units. So Sharesies should just be lethal, giving
an
over
extra-
10
it's
attack
extra
onto
3
that
attack.
unit.
Yeah, it's an extra
10
3
attack
attack.
on the Saurian. It's just going to do it. So we can talk to the moon and back about what if Pukaru survives, but Kuro's just not going to give him the option.
No, not at all. Unfortunately, forging that Glacial Saurian to get that extra attack from Bellows Breath is just enough. 5, Pukaru sees hope, and it's immediately taken away as Sharesies comes down and smacks into Pukaru's face.
And that means, Rory, that for our faithfulness, for our, all of this action, we are rewarded with a Seraphine Set mirror to end the match.
Oh boy. Everyone, maybe put the popcorn on now. This will be a while. It will be quite like watching a feature film. I'm expecting this to go to turn 20 at least. We can talk about the nuances of the completing lists, and will consistency of having multiple copies of one spell beat out versus the Seraphine heavy one-offs and the big cat that is lurking.
Something that I didn't even notice initially is that Pukaru doesn't play High Note or Mystic Shot,
Nope.
but does have 3
Runs
Notify.
3 yeah, it's a weird one. I believe I'm just getting it now. Also 3 Aftershocks. No Aftershocks. 2 Rocket Barrages. That's their only direct damage.
Meanwhile, on the side of Kuro, got 3 Portal Pioneer and an Aftershock to sort of deal with the Sunken Temple War, and we see an Explorer in both players' hands, but double Temple for Kuro versus the one of Pukaru.
But Pukaru also has 2 Explorers.
This is
Fine.
stupid, Rory.
This is so tough.
I was hoping for, like the sort of one opportunity that you have to just run away with the game is like one player resolves a sunken temple and the other can't, and then they just bury them into an advantage. But both players just having the appropriate amount of landmark removal. That said, Pukaru is the one with the option to draw, or more likely rather, to draw a Nopify to protect that temple, because I don't think Kuro is likely to throw down the explorers preemptively and have that double removal for the temple come time for it. So Pukaru might be able to get like one cycle through.
Only a few days
What's
till the show.
really
We
interesting
got this.
about Pukaru, and I mentioned this, it was about an hour ago, is this Puff Cap Peddler. And I have a feeling this will be the defining card in this mirror. These shrooms can be so impactful, especially because Seraphine decks love drawing. We see that place your bets in hand, and he's just always safe, because if Kuro wants to invest Aftershock, that's completely fine. We tag it out.
The more I look at this list, Rory, from Pukaru, the more I'm thinking that this was actually built for the mirror. When you consider the triple Puffcat Peddler with like triple Nopify, double retreat, triple tag out, forgoing the mystic shots and the high notes that don't do a lot in a matchup like this, it's pretty difficult for Kuro to remove Puffcat Peddler in a single card. And so, yeah, I think that you're spot on in that this is the win condition, and this deck is actually leaning into it a lot harder than I initially thought.
And I don't want to call it a bait deck. It's not some level of running Bandle Phase Swarm, but putting one copy of Viger and Senna in to confuse your opponent's mulligan. This is just an alternative way of playing this region combo that I have rarely seen before, and I'm enjoying it a lot right now. We've got the tag out to save Peddler from set, and Kuro is just going to be clutching here to try and remove him as early as possible.
And there's no Nopify available for Kuro, so the tag out that we assume is coming, or maybe even just a Concussive Palm, it actually will be the Concussive Palm, playing around the Nopify with the 2 mana available for Kuro a little bit as well. And that spell will play, and it's 3 Puff Caps in the deck for Kuro. Should get a count up for you here soon, folks, and I believe that'll actually just stay on screen, so you never have to wonder and guess how many Puff Caps are in Kuro's deck. The answer for now is 6.
It's double Peddler. And it's at this point in the game, I'm wondering, do you just let Kuro play Sunken Temple?
I
don't think you do, but there could be a line if you go, I can plant so many shrooms in one turn, I can force you to kill your Nexus, basically.
I think that'll come later. I think for the most part, because both players are on triple Sunken Temple, you're fine to kill the first one and assume that Kuro will eventually just run out a second copy.
Yeah, that's fair. Because really, Pukaru's only direct threat is Big Cat. And if you really want to, you can tag it out or even get Explorer's Blunder as an answer to it. So it's not the most reliable game ender in this matchup.
I call it pit grit. It's got cherries.
And meanwhile, Kuro, we talked a little bit earlier about the Explorers being a great answer for the Sunken Temple, but that has, in a roundabout way, sort of baited Kuro into being a little light on the Aftershocks, which is one of the most effective tools to deal with this Puffcat Peddler. Only one copy in the list for Kuro, so pretty unlikely to draw that one. Meanwhile, Pukaru, the double Puffcat Peddler sticks. Set is an option to try and deal with these, but Pukaru has so much protection.
And I'm just... A lot of Pukaru's hand right now is... It's designed to do exactly one thing, right? Tagger's really going to be used to defensively. Temple will never get played unless it's just to soak up a spell. We're not really generating many puff caps here, right? There's no spam spells except for the coins that have now been generated. And I think that's going to mean this game goes on a lot longer than, frankly, it needs to be if Pukaru was to get loads of burst spells that can just cycle.
And I think that's a position that Pukaru is kind of comfortable in, is playing these decks where the game, arguably goes on a little bit longer than it should have. Maybe there's just an easier but more vulnerable kill condition, and Pukaru just more comfortable in playing these sort of, I don't want to call it zero win condition control, but, you know, definitely a much slower one than we normally see out of some of these lists.
Likely to see the tag out here. Yeah, not surprised by that at all. There's no answer. Kuro has no answer in the form of damaging spells to stop any of this recalling or stunning. And now Pukaru can just play Puffcap Peddler again and coin. Put 6 more Puffcaps in the deck.
It's actually a little awkward for Pukaru that they're so... Again, Pukaru does not play high note. Those are 2 Seraphines in hand. As soon as Pukaru can actually level the Seraphine, then we're off to the races. Seraphine leveled with the double Puffcap Peddler. Yeah, that's sort of the problem with Pukaru's list, right? Is there's not... It doesn't hyper accelerate the Seraphine like a traditional deck does. They're not even playing Stuttering Song Spinner. Actually, neither of these players are playing Stuttering Song Spinner.
No, just Koa at the start was playing that because we've all brought Seraphine to the tiebreaker. Kuro actually has to start spending spells, you know. I think they just go drop down Seraphine, but they'll put another card in their hand. But eventually, they're just going to have to bite the bullet and play Temple to create hand space. Try and accelerate this big cat as well.
Yeah, and I think on the other side, Pukaru actually would love for their Seraphine to die so that they can play a second copy and just generate a new spell, because this single combat is not ideal.
It's useless, basically, yeah. Seeing a tag out here. Coin cycle. Sure. Just maybe updrafting Temple away, knowing you got removal.
Maybe even coining the Temple out here?
Well, they know Pukaru has the Explorer spell.
Yeah, which is why you can go, okay, here's a Temple, you removed it, okay, here's another Temple.
Some Fumes is actually an answer.
Yeah, the mana's available for it as well.
Okay.
So one Peddler's going down.
An answer to the Peddlers.
Oh, actually does go for the coin into Temple after the fact.
Oh,
That's...
wow. It's not counting Pukaru's coins.
It's just sort of fine going for the big mana commitment to level up the set and saying, hey, this card's sitting in my hand. I do need to use it eventually. I'd rather get this Explorer spell out of you and open myself up for a second Temple. But maybe with the Puffcap strategy being what it is, Kuro doesn't even want to resolve a Temple. And Pukaru actually thinking about maybe just letting this go.
Yeah, did you see that? Started a little, trying to do the math, seeing can I get enough shrooms to burn. Obviously, if Kuro puts their entire hand back into the deck, that's a lot of cards with no shrooms on them.
As Pukaru might even just be thinking like, okay, what does a single combat look like here to put my opponent at 23 shrooms in deck with 9 draws coming in on the following turn?
The 3/4 just targeting the Clockling for fun.
Looks like it's going to be a high note instead. High note not active currently. If actually, maybe it could be, I guess. If Seraphine was at 6 out of 9, she still only would be showing 1 arrow. But I'm assuming Pukaru not doing a very good job of progressing the Seraphine level up. Yeah, still not even close. So just going to bop it onto the set and set that up for a single combat.
Right, yeah. Okay,
here we go.
Gotta deny, that's true. Oh!
2 more.
So, we have an answer now to Puffcap Peddler with
Wow.
the 2-mana spell. I can't remember its name.
Gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you. As we're seeing now, sorry, that Conch Palm not doing a whole lot here. Maybe to slow down the set.
Yeah, meanwhile, triple deny in the hand of Kuro versus the 0 in the list of Pukaru in general. Just very different philosophies coming out of these players on how they want to be playing these cards. Pukaru, no protection for the Puffcap Peddler, might just go for firing off as many spells as possible in response to its death.
Palm here, right? Onto the set just to protect the other. But there is a deny
Pukaru's
available.
token. Yeah, it looks like single combat's going to try to take out the set that's probably just going to get a deny out of Kuro. You've got 3, why not? But it is going to put a few more puff caps into the deck before this one goes down. This does also put Seraphine at 7 out of 9. 6 out of 9? I think 6 out of 9, yeah.
6 out of 9, I'm pretty sure. We've got to wonder now, does Pukaru... Oh, no, wait, no deny. Okay to sack the set in favor of killing off that Puffcap Peddler.
Yeah, I would assume that Kuro either A, really wants to get down Seraphine while they're templing, or B, feels like they need to smooth Mixologist every time it comes across their hand in order to just survive the Puffcaps.
Stem the bleeding, almost. Pukaru. There are a lot of cards in Kuro's deck that do not have Puffcaps on, so... Do you... I'm sure there's a mathematician somewhere that says how many Puffcaps is perfect to leave a Sunken Temple open compared to the amount of cards in the enemy deck, but I feel like 24 is far too low to allow Sunken Temple to keep cycling.
It's odd because this is another, 8 cards, 9 cards that are going to get shuffled in that don't have Puffcaps, which means like there are fewer cards with Puffcaps on them, but the ones with Puffcaps have a very high density of Puffcaps.
Right. Yeah, that's a very fair point. I think just what Doran picked up here. Just trying to... I'm not sure what that time trick was for, honestly, because normally you want to save time trick for Seraphine so you can double draw good cards.
I assume it was for the Seraphine level up.
Yeah.
Okay, just gonna keep drawing these denies. There's the Pursuit of Perfection. Kuro basically just redrawing the same hand as before.
Ooh, that's a big slog, that.
8 Puffcap damage off the Temple. There's still a draw for turn happening, and that's gonna be another 2.
Ooh! Okay, drawing, I think that was 7 or 8 Puffcaps that one turn. Not feel good. Set dropping down here. We have Kisu has a concussive palm. To answer it, Kuro obviously has the discounted denies. They do choose to use it.
Sakaru's going to answer with a preemptive palm onto the set. It's going to be 3 more Puffcaps in the deck, up to 15 now. Not as scary of a, or 18 rather, not as scary of a Puffcap total as one might think, but
it was 26 last turn and they drew 8 of them.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, Kuro almost feels like they just have to try and dump as many cards out of their hand as possible, but they're basically tapped out at this point. There's not much more they can do to try and empty the hand.
And I wonder if they just throw the set away with the tag out, go for the 5-mana tag out onto the set. And just say, we don't want you getting showstopper this turn.
Yeah, I don't hate that. And then, Sakaru has the option to just kind of fire off the coin for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
But this also, pseudo... I was going to say pseudo permanently deals with the set, but then I remembered Kuro actually overwrit their Sunken Temple.
Yeah, there is that. Kuro recognizing that they can't be drawing any more after that turn and just went, I don't care anymore. I'm just getting rid of the best card in my deck because in this situation, it's just too brutal to have on board.
And that's sort of an issue with Pisakaru's long game plan of, I'll let their temple resolve and they can just draw all these shrooms. It's like, well, Kuro can actually choose to just destroy their own Sunken Temple if you let them get wide enough.
Yeah. We want to put an eye to the timer here. Pisakaru, slightly less time available to them compared to Kuro as we go. I believe there's 5 minutes of overtime anyway, but these are both long matches, so hopefully we don't see one of these players being timed out, but it is a possibility to keep in mind. Especially
because I don't see Pisakaru winning anytime soon.
No.
Maybe it's possible in the next 11 minutes, but Kuro definitely seems to have the better of this one.
Especially with that Peddler now being chosen to die. Because Pisakaru did have answers.
I think Pisakaru just saying, okay, with the temple gone, with Kuro recognizing that they need to get rid of their temple, I don't think that the Shroom plan is really my go-to at this point. And it's unfortunate for Pisakaru further that, one, okay, yeah, if their board is full, they can overwrite temple, but if their board is full, they also can't play Pursuit of Perfection. But now the temple is gone, and there's a board space for Kuro, and Pisakaru doesn't play Deny, but thankfully for them, Kuro actually has updrafted this card down to the point of being hit by Nopify.
Oh. I was actually pretty sure we were going to see Explorer's Blunder there, just as an answer to Big Cat if it did come through. I believe Pursuit Perfection is at 15 right now. Hopefully a graphic can help us out here.
Either way, it's certainly high enough that it's going to come down in the next couple of turns. 13 out of 20. Okay, yeah. So
next turn.
A little bit further off than maybe we anticipated. But again, with the Nopify coming out here, Pukaru currently has no answer for that card. Really just needs to find a set, has it in hand, but can they get it safely down in the face of Kuro's own level 2 set?
I don't think I have ever seen a game go this long without Seraphine screaming at my face. But having an unleveled Seraphine this late into the game is crazy to me.
This is some Ruben Zoo style play where you put in the one Seraphine and the one Ezreal, and then you just play Burn.
Right, yeah. They're both less, but neither of them are leveled. That's insane to me.
At the very least, this game's got to get the record for, longest Seraphine mirror without a leveled Seraphine.
Yes. Very fringe world record, but I think
got to take them where you can get them.
Yeah, Guinness was still respected, I'm sure. As we're seeing set drop hit.
Never lost yet, and I ain't starting now. Ain't no fight I can't win.
That Showstopper will be able to take out, well, hopefully take out, but there is another deny in Kuro's hand.
Kuro going to be able to defend their set, no problem, and then from there, onus is back on Pukaru, who is looking very vulnerable to a Showstopper right now.
Yeah, Kuro can just counter Showstopper. If they have the reach, I wasn't sure how much banked mana they had at the start of this turn. So it might be unobtainable.
Sharpening edges.
Okay, Pursuit getting pushed down even further.
So Seraphine can double it.
That
Seraphine
is an
can
issue.
now double Pursuit of Perfection.
And Pukaru actually passes without using the Showstopper.
Okay, so Pukaru currently has two Nopifies to answer Big Cat if that situation ever arose. But Kuro's board is too stacked right now to even summon Pursuit of Perfection.
Kuro can Seraphine's High Note to clear 2 of their own units.
Well, maybe.
They can recall
try.
Children of the Forest.
Okay, Puffcat Peddler number 3 found for Pukaru.
It's too little too late, right, to be putting shrooms in. Now that Sunken Temple's been overridden.
I don't know how else Pukaru is able to win this game, Rory.
This is so close. Seraphine finally. Oh, finally leveled.
Taking aim at the opposing Seraphine with the Rocket Barrage. Kuro has an answer for this if they want, but with all their cards reduced down as much as they are, Pukaru could Nopify this and force through the Rocket Barrage that wouldn't do much good as the Seraphine will level.
Yeah, it might be too little too late. Oh! I was wondering if Kuro just goes, that's fine, I'll let my Seraphine and board die so I can summon Big Cat.
I hear you, Zon.
Going for the level
Now you're
instead.
about to hear me.
If things play out such that this Seraphine goes down and Kuro just jams Pursuit of Perfection, Pukaru Nopifies, Kuro denies, Pukaru re-Nopifies, I don't think this game will have a resolution before time.
Disgusting. Yeah.
Sorry, Papa.
It's my understanding that we have 5 minutes of overtime once that time hits 0.
Yeah, so with about 6 minutes left on the clock. And if this is just Kuro going for Pursuit, then Kuro has the victory eventually. I just don't know if it's before the timer runs out. I think it will be. We're actually not even at the ability to play Pursuit of Perfection just yet. And Kuro, clearing up some of their own board space to go for the double Pursuit.
Do you realize who you're up against? against?
Pukaru, if they use a Nopify here. Oh, they still have one more.
Yeah, Pukaru's got to be sure that Kuro's up to something. Probably, I would assume now has some sort of read that like there is a 2-mana Pursuit of Perfection, given how many updrafts went off, the fact that the Disciple of Doran spell was
The
used.
crowd writes the song.
This is great though, isn't it, for Kuro? Because if a Pukaru commits the showstopper, then you can just play Big Cat, and your deny has an answer to Pukaru's Nopify.
Another step.
Oh my days!
At the very least, for Pukaru at least, Kuro has already gone to combat this turn, so not in
Yeah.
danger of dying to the big cat now. Will lose a Seraphine for it, but has the Showstopper and has a board clear off of it. Kuro, with the deny, might be able to fight over this. Also has the Children of the Forest to try and save one of these cards.
I'm just thinking, Children of the Forest, is it only followers, the 8-cost part? Or is it champions as well? Because I'm pretty sure Kuro has recalled Seraphine and Set multiple times this game with tag out.
I believe it's just followers for the revive
just
part,
followers,
for the
okay.
ephemeral portion of it, but yeah,
Yeah,
it looks like the
yeah,
Nopify is going to get used, and I think that's the last Nopify in Pukaru's list, which means once
Big
this
Cat
Pursuit
comes
of
down?
Perfection comes down, it's going to resolve, but... Okay, it looks like, I imagine Kuro's doing this to generate their own Showstopper, or at least hovering it, seeing what it looks like. Yeah, will generate their own Showstopper, so we are now at a point where I think there's a universe where Pukaru would have won this one, but with only 3 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock, I don't think this is it.
Pukaru has
Is up on
used
time,
much
though.
time. He's up on time. Kuro now has 3 minutes, 30 seconds to win this match. Because if they win this match and next series, Kuro will be going to Worlds.
Oh, that temple animation takes so long, though, and that works both ways. When it goes back over to Kuro's turn, they're going to have their time eaten into by this Sunken Temple.
Oh, but the recall came out. Pukaru got recall, but Sunken Temple will throw it away next turn. So Kuro big catting here. Pukaru has to pull a wonder card off of Sunken Temple next turn.
Yeah, and they'll have a lot of draws to do it. Formula can come out to fill the hand a little bit more. Actually, Sunken Temple
That's
number
an extra
2 going to get
draw.
played.
It's an extra draw next turn. That's what the second Sunken Temple does.
A few more shrooms into the deck of Kuro, and again, we talked earlier about how there aren't a lot of cards with shrooms on them, but the ones that are high density. There could just be a 6 shroom card sitting in Kuro's deck.
If this game ends with a 6 shroom card, I don't know how to think anymore.
Alright,
As we're
timer
seeing
getting eaten
Hellstone,
into.
I see no recalls.
Oh,
Tag out's
tag
there.
out.
Tag
But
out's
there's
there,
an-
but it doesn't matter because Nopify exists.
No, but it's a 5-mana tag out.
Oh! You're completely right. It's not discounted anymore.
5-mana tag out's going to be immune to Nopify. It's going to be 3 damage pushed on the Nexus. No, it's going to be a block with the Puffcat Peddler. 2 minutes left on the clock. 30 seconds down for Kuro. Priorities back to them. They just have to let this go. Set in the hand for Pukaru. Rory, this might do it. Pukaru might be able to stall out here.
This might absolutely be the end. Is it just a win by 1,000 draws in this match?
Might just be Kuro almost certainly going to go for the heal here. Yeah, just needs to get their life total up a little bit more, but how are they going to win the game? They're down 30 seconds. There's no way
two
that they're going to be able to
showstoppers.
cement that sort of disadvantage here. And yeah, Pukaru might even just have lethal on the open attack now with the double showstoppers to clear out the blockers.
Oh my days, can't do it.
Just lets it all
Oh,
go.
Just lets it all go. They don't care.
Showstopper
Another
redrawn.
showstopper because it got tossed into the deck.
2 shrooms, double
showstoppers.
showstopper, plus, oh, the spell that
Sorted
summons the
Stitches.
Reborn Grenadier.
Not
There's
the
a
Stitches.
Mystic Shot. Seraphine
Seraphine
comes
gets
down.
played.
Pukaru's up 10 seconds, barely.
Palm.
Showstopper.
No, just showstopper in.
Yeah, that's
get
probably going to be
Nopify.
Nopify.
But Pukaru has another one, so it doesn't matter.
50 seconds left on the clock. 15 seconds up for Pukaru.
Down to the last seconds of this match. This will
Showstopper gets used.
determine.
This is just lethal. Pukaru gets to pull the big cat to the side, and then it's 5 damage on the Seraphine and the Mixologist.
And the Salt and Stitches.
as well as the Salt and Stitches. Yeah, Pukaru with 30 seconds left up on time, doesn't matter, actually finds the lethal here with the set. That is going to be Pukaru taking this one 2-1 over Kuro.
At the end of the day, Pukaru, 15 seconds left on the timer, makes the hero swing. And my days, was that a match?
Yeah, all of these matches so far getting really close to the timeout. We thought that first set between Pukaru and Koa went long, but no. Now Kuro and Pukaru one-upping it, and that puts Pukaru at a 1-1 scoreline for his final record. Kuro gonna take on Koa after this to be the deciding match. But Rory, we have seen some intense Legends of Runeterra so far, and there is still one more match to go. Folks, do not go anywhere. We're going to throw it to a short break, and when we return, we will have our final match here at the World Championship Play-Ins Decider.
There's another Seraphine Mirror coming. to the APAC. Welcome back to the APAC tiebreaker for Worlds. We have seen two slobber knockers of a series, especially that final game was completely ridiculous and came down to 15 seconds left on the timer. But now we've got two winners of the previous series, Kuro versus Koa, for a seat at the table of the World's competitive list.
Yeah, unfortunately, behind the scenes, we ran the numbers, and there is no longer a scenario in which Pukaru can make it to the World Championship. They have been effectively eliminated, and now there's a couple of different outcomes possible still, but it will be either Koa or Kuro. There's a couple of different factors it depends on. It's not as straightforward as it may seem, but we'll get into that once it actually happens, and let you know who's actually moving on once it's pertinent. But we did just want to say that Pukaru has unfortunately been eliminated despite their absolute nail biter of a win. We hope to see them again next year, but for now we've got the two players still in it to win it going head to head. We're going to take a look at their deck lists here in a second, remind you of what these players are playing, because it's been a minute since you've seen Koa. In fact, it's been an hour.
Yes, it has been a while, and the first time out, this deck was banned by Pukaru. And we got to see the Janna Seraphine in Targon and also the set. And you know what? This deck is confusing me because it's so few champions. And I feel like if War Mother's Call goes too long, you're just going to run out of units. And if you run out of units in this deck, it can be an absolute nightmare.
11 units is a lot, but if you have, 4 or 5 of them in hand, then those are things not coming off of War Mother's Call. It also really reduces the sort of mirror potential when you have a double War Mother's Call if you can outpace your opponent in that regard, but it's not really going to be the case here as there's no War Mother's Call on the other side. Meanwhile, the Seraphine Janna, something that we've seen before, another Pursuit of Perfection win condition.
Yeah, and we saw this come to quite significant win. We haven't really seen Seraphine at her peak today even. We haven't seen a back alley bar plus Seraphine combo coming out today just because everyone's running so much landmark removal. But these are pretty tried and tested decks that we're seeing out of Koa. No surprises being run, just standard control lists.
That Ionia, Piltover, and Zon region combination, sort of the highlight for all three of these players, going Seraphine set for a couple of the competitors, and then Koa sticking with the Karma set, but still finding a way to slip that Seraphine into the lineup. And here we see the Seraphine set from Kuro that we were just talking about. Again, a much more standard list than what Pukaru came with. Shouldn't have too much problem leveling the Seraphine. Should they run into the Seraphine mirror this time around?
We say that. Kuro's Seraphine took till round 26 or something to level, so last game. So hopefully we'll see her leveling a little earlier, but who knows really. These matches are kind of blowing my mind. Moving on, we're seeing the Poro King and Yumi combination that did get banned out last time round.
And I'm wondering if it's going to get banned out again. I'm sure that Koa was watching the match between Kuro and Pukaru and, was sort of impressed with Pukaru's ability to withstand the Jax Ornn with that War Mother's Call and might be thinking, you know what? Yeah. Maybe I can do that too. Maybe it is another ban onto the Poros. Maybe Pukaru had the right idea there.
And so I see some Poro lists running Poro Sled, some not. I personally really like Poro Sled because generating just a random 5/5 in the late game is crazy good on attack and can just surprise your opponent so well. And then, of course, we saw Jax Ornn try to push it over the line versus War Mother's Call earlier and failing, but still significantly taking a win as well.
And that one of Sharesies that you called out earlier in the day, Rory, actually doing massive work in the win that this deck had. If not for that Sharesies, things would have gone on a little bit longer. Maybe Pukaru could have restabilized. But we are into the band selection portion of this Koa versus Kuro for that last spot at the World Championship to represent the APAC Shard. And again, we're looking at a lot of control on the side of Koa versus Kuro with this sort of more control-resilient, anti-control-y lineup. With Kuro losing to Pukaru and Pukaru losing to Koa, so far things have not gone as we've expected over the course of the day.
It's been really strange, actually, because I know a lot of people were coming in today saying they were expecting Pukaru to win. I was seeing that a lot in chat earlier, I was seeing that on Twitter, and them being knocked out is just so unfortunate, but it does mean we're left with both very strong control players, but Kuro just slightly tweaking their deck under guessing that their opponents are going to be jamming these Karma and Seraphine lists. And that's why Jax Horn is here. That's why Yuumi and Poro King are here. It's to just bring more value and harder hitters. And we're seeing Poro King once again banned out.
I love that Poros have gotten banned now twice in a last chance qualifier.
Terrifying fluff balls.
Just the presence that this deck, just this deck's place in the meta, what it brings to the table, what it's looking to achieve. Just a great meta call from Kuro coming into this round robin tournament.
And a lot of people who, if you don't know why Poros have suddenly blown up, it is partially to do with this new Targon variant that was running Zolani and this one's running Winding Light. But it's also because of the small Poro King buff to create a free special snacks when he levels. That has really turboed the deck and brings them way more consistency in getting bigger early.
Yeah, there's a line of play that you'll see quite often where if the Poro King is, one away from leveling up on turn 6, you can play Poro King plus 1 Poro, and that's going to generate you a Poro snacks and 2 special snacks.
Yeah, it's a really clever play, and sometimes you don't go for that line just because your Poro King could be a 5/5 and you're really scared of him being taken out immediately. But when you can get it off, it feels so good. And speaking of so good, Koa's got that early ramp in the Wild Mysticism, whereas Kuro, also quite happy, has got that Sunken Temple.
Yeah, no landmark removal coming out of Koa. When we look at the War Mothers lists, generally what they were going for is It That Stares, which is, of course, not legal in Standard. So the players have just decided that, the Freljord and Shadow Isle landmark removal, a little bit too weak, a little bit too not worth it.
Kuro finding that Deny is going to be such high value. Fortunately, if they play Sunken Temple, it will get shuffled away, but Kuro is running 3 Denies, so She Who Wanders shouldn't be too scary.
No, it's more about War Mothers versus Ionia is a tale as old as time. And sometimes it looks as straightforward as Deny into War Mother's Call. But at the same time, if you're sitting on Deny and I throw a Tryndamere down, you can't deny that. That's a little bit more of an issue. In the past, it was actually quite fine for War Mother's Call because Ionia decks were so passive that it's like, I denied the War Mothers. I got an 8 mana swing. But they couldn't capitalize on that. There was nothing Ionia decks back then were doing with that additional 8 mana. That is no longer the case. Karma's set, or Seraphine's set in this case, they have a lot to do with that 7 mana swing.
Especially with coins making it actually more like a 14 mana swing. Because they give so much value later on. As I'm just seeing some friendly bounces back and forth here. Koa doesn't have any more ramps, so it's just going to slowly clear away Kuro's board. The question is, Kuro can never really play Seraphine in this matchup. That's the awkward thing. Because of Eradication, because of Soul Cleave. It just feels really rough and has to go all in on the set here as your primary champion.
And that's sort of what you can do with that 7 mana swing, right? If Koa does get punished by a deny onto the War Mother's Call, that's when Kuro is going to be extremely safe to develop that Seraphine, at least for a turn, maybe get a couple of draw spells off before the Eradication comes down. But Koa is also sort of in the awkward position where we ran into this with Pukaru. If you're Eradicationing, it really limits what else you can do with the turn. Luckily, with it being 5 mana, 8 drops are still on the table. Bodir, the Black and Ice, Tryndamere can still come down, but She Who Wanders completely off the table.
Yeah, completely off the table. And now Kuro is over the moon because they were able to just drop Sunken Temple with a basically full hand and generated as much value by updrafting as you could. Now, we're seeing Rond drop down. That's a 5 mana Bodir. They want to play her.
Oh, man. That's going to be the Explorer's Excavation to kill all of the Titanic reduction.
That's rude, is the only word I can put to that right now. As we're just going to see Volibear's sigils dug up and completely ruined. But 8 mana for Koa next turn. We'll be able to drop that Bodir and that looming threat of the Thralls coming in 2 turns' time.
Yeah, Sigil of the Storm just catching strays from the mass amount of temple removal that the players came equipped with, but that does mean less removal for the Thralls, like you mentioned, and that means Bodir, safe to come down next turn, and start to count those down. That's just going to be a few too many 8 attack units for Kuro to realistically deal with. They've got to get something else going here.
We do see the deny. We see 2 denies. Okay. So, no chance of a War Mothers if Koa was to have it. I wonder if Koa just passes it. The issue is, the more you pass, the more value Sunken Temple creates.
Welcome to the arena.
Kuro's going to take him straight to combat. Only 1 damage pushed onto the Nexus and quite a bit of damage pushed back onto the set. But this is going to take Ron, the Magma Serpent, down to 1 HP. Bodir, the Blackened Ice, I would imagine going to come out here.
Yeah, I think you just have to. It's so much guaranteed value instead of War Mother's Call, which is theoretical value because of the denies.
Actually, Koa went for a pass after combat. Priority went back to Kuro, who finished it off with a Mystic Shot. And I think that was just Koa saying, hey, you have a 10-card hand. If you want to overdraw a couple of cards, it's fine by me. But I think now Koa does need to throw down Bodir, the Blackened Ice. Not a lot of reason to delay this any further. Maybe Koa thinking, okay, you know, if I can get them down below deny mana, then I can threaten War Mother's Call. But without actually having it.
Unfortunately, another Thrall getting dug up. Or another landmark is getting dug up even. Really reducing the number of Thralls and the amount of overwhelmed damage that will be coming through.
Hiatus getting used just to try and take as many blockers off the table as possible. Unfortunately, Bodir doesn't have any keywords themselves.
Oh, this is naughty.
Gruesome Theater going
Gruesome
to recall.
Theater.
Yet
And then you
another
get-
Explorer's Excavation.
Oh, then you get another excavation. Bodir is now just
Just an
an
8/8.
8-8. 8-8 on its own. Had some Thrall friends, but they got dug up.
And I wonder if Kuro also fires off Gotcha just to get it out of the deck.
Ooh, that's a fair point. As like, yeah, nothing really needs 3 mana removal anymore. But it is an extra card in your hand from Sunken Temple next turn. So maybe Kuro is just on the value train.
Looks like Kuro is going to be on the volume train, going to go up to 9 cards in hand this round. Meanwhile, Koa doesn't have much to
Another
do here on
deny.
turn 9. Look, there's the Gotcha again. Should have just gotten rid of the Gotcha.
Boarding going to be eating up this 1-1, it looks like. A bit of an unfair fight, I'd say, but even still, Koa is lacking the value they're really hoping for here. She Who Wanders does get denied next turn. It's likely it will. Very hard for Koa to close out this first match.
And because of cards like Tag Out, Koa can't even try to force the denies with removal
Yeah.
spells.
Paid for a show.
And, you know, Koa just not going super aggressive here. Like, has Eradication, has Double Soul Harvest decided to just throw
Can't-
Bodir into a 1/1 anyway?
Yeah, that is an interesting one. Especially as those cards just can't get any value anywhere else unless you're saving them for Seraphine. But you only need to save 1 or 2 of them for her.
Tag Out's going down to 0 mana, and Kuro's just going to take a burst pass over. Haven't seen one of those in a minute. Doesn't function like it used to, but Koa now has the opportunity
the
to
good
just end
old
the turn.
Shellfolk days. Love it. Now let's see. I want to see when Kuro decides I'm just going to level set and go for the showstopper.
I think
'Cause right now they're not
Kuro's-
spending much mana.
Yeah, Kuro's pretty content to just hang out, wait for Koa to try and do something big and answer it and progress the set that way.
2 for flinching.
But does actually need to level the set to send them back into combat. This one's already used its barrier for the game. And again,
1
just
mana, deny.
Okay, Volibear. There's actually... Okay, 3 denies. And a Tag Out. Not ideal for Koa.
Yeah, really not the best, but you've kind of just opened your champions up to getting smacked by volley here. Oh, but That generated spell from Seraphine is so good. Getting the stances available to you could just give her regen.
I am hard pressed to imagine Koa wiggling their way out of this one. Just don't have enough pressure. No War Mothers. No chance of a War Mothers coming through, even if they happen to line it up on a hand where Kuro didn't draw 3 copies of Deny.
Oh my. Kuro just has the near infinite value now of these Sunken Temples. And with Seraphine so close to leveling, Koa, what are your answers here? I was actually wondering if Kuro would go for Bear Stance or Wild Claw Stance just to push Seraphine out of Soul Harvest reach.
It looks like just not at all worried about this Seraphine going down to any attack-based removal. Seraphine and Set both going to level. Tag Out still available. Triple Deny still available.
And a Notify
Mystic Shot now
just to
getting
top it
doubled.
off.
Yeah, just for good measure. Let's get a Notify
Just for
in
fun,
there.
you know. And with that regen coming out, the set is no longer able to die to Volibear's Storm that gets played when he's summoned.
And from here, it's a really awkward position for Koa, where you don't have a lot of tools to threaten the life of the set, but while Set is out, it becomes a very difficult task to try and just, okay, yeah, here's a Volibear, okay, here's a She Who Wanders, so throwing out the Piercing Darkness, there's the 4 answers that Kuro has for this, it's just a matter of which one do they want to use.
So, I think what Koa is trying to do here is just remove as many denies as possible, trying to bait Kuro into using their denies, so they can either sneak in a War Mother's Call or a She Who Wanders later on. But I just don't think it's that effective when Tag Out exists.
I don't even think Deny is necessarily a concern for Kuro onto the She Who Wanders. It's at this point of the game, it would literally just be Protect Seraphine, which
Yeah, completely.
you could just draw another Seraphine. But now Kuro doesn't have to worry about another Titanic unit coming down, save maybe Rond the Magma Serpent, because that is in Koa's list, but Showstoppers generated, Sets on board with the 5 attack, and the ability to be immune while in combat. So maybe Kuro looking at the blocks saying, hey, if I just pass here, that does stop Rond coming down, because if Rond comes down pre-combat, then I've actually got a board wipe here with the Showstopper.
Oh dear, Koa. How are you going to fish yourself out of this predicament in the final series that you need to win in order to get your place at Worlds and a chance at the trophy?
Here comes the 1-mana Deny, and honestly,
So rude.
I think I almost like Kuro templing away the Showstopper and having that be a constant threat in their hand, because this isn't a
okay.
very high priority Showstopper.
It's not. It doesn't really do anything right now, except for get rid of Bodir, and Bodir's... It's so, you can push
It'd
5
push
extra
5
damage with
damage.
Set, but you can do that anyway, frankly.
Yeah.
You're winning the war of attrition right now either way.
However, that is 1 less Deny in hand and a couple less cards coming out of Kuro, and thanks to the buff to War Mother's Call is available if Koa draws it. Never mind, there's Deny again.
2-mana Deny. Big Cat, I don't think we're very close to Big Cat at all, to be honest. Kuro's been playing quite reactively.
Kuro's also drawn 12 Denies this game. Just every single Temple hand finds multiple copies of this card.
And actually way closer than I was expecting. Okay, so we don't think we've seen Mariam being played this game, so that will be 18. Some themes would be 19.
Kuro doesn't even need to do the Pursuit this turn. Obviously, can't do the Pursuit this turn,
definitely.
I think, and then it's going to get shuffled away anyway, but very much just winning the long game with this one. And we've seen a couple of issues over the course of the day of games going a little bit too long, getting really dicey here, and with 35 minutes left on the clock, I'm not sure it'll be an issue, but again, this is far from the slowest matchup that we can run into in this head-to-head.
I mean, if Koa happens to win this, then we would be seeing Janna, Seraphine, Targon, right? Into Seraphine set. So that would be a crazy matchup. That
Which
might take half an hour. I'm going to be honest. It might take half an hour
I guess
again.
it's good for everybody involved then that Kuro is looking very favored in this match, and we will very likely be able to dodge the Seraphine mirror this time around, because with Kuro's last deck being Jaxorn, at the very least, those should not be 30-minute slobber knockers.
No. That should be a 15-minute bonk and you're gone with a lamppost, right? It shouldn't be that difficult to close out.
Now Kuro just debating whether or not it's worth it to use a deny to stop the Bale site. That would only leave them with one deny for a War Mother's Call in the future, which Koa does still have the mana for. That one banked spell mana isn't going anywhere. And it's just going to let it resolve.
And Koa seeing Kuro only lose 2 cards from a 10-mana unit can't feel great.
And then
But
here's the Seraphine I had.
Elusive set is that's a guaranteed 5 damage. Yes. Oh dear. Maybe just gonna use it as fodder for the Sunken Temple to get an extra draw off.
Okay, just going wide here.
Yeah.
It's going to be 8 Nexus damage if Set pulls aside the She Who Wanders. It's not a
fine,
bad clock.
yeah. Turboing that showstopper out. We're seeing it getting used here. Now, Koa, is your volley bear enough? You can eradication, I suppose, if Kuro isn't lucky enough to draw a deny.
Yeah, but first the open attack's going to come through for, I think
course it
that's
is,
12
yeah.
damage. There's a Flash Freeze available for Koa. No interaction from Kuro for that, but yeah, it looks like that Flash Freeze is actually going to be a necessary tool for Koa to survive here, and that does take them off of further development. Wild Mysticism will make a 6/6, but it's not quite enough at this stage of the game.
Quite enough at all. Kuro swinging, hitting the nail further into Koa's coffin. Now, probably gonna see
Eradication?
eradication.
Would
but
board
that's
wipe,
a
but-
1-mana deny, baby. So
Yeah.
it's not gonna
Okay.
do anything.
I think Koa's going fishing with the Soul Harvest and saying, hey, yeah, you should deny this Soul Harvest because
yeah.
that's all I've got for the turn, hee. And then if that does work out in Koa's favor, then they can actually get the full board wipe off the
Right.
eradication. Unfortunately, if Koa goes after Set, Kuro might just let it go and play second Set.
Yeah, that's a very fair point, isn't it? And Seraphine, remember, will get draw 4 from that rummage.
Yeah.
We can find so many valuable cards and just go wide again.
It's also a 0-mana time trick that I believe hasn't been played yet. And there's deny number
Hey,
3,
that's
which
the-
is actually deny number 15 for
That's-
Kuro.
But I do want to add that is the last deny Kuro has. So if Koa happened to top deck War Mother's Call and Kuro couldn't draw their final deny, War Mother's Call would go off.
I don't know if that even matters at this stage of the game, but taking a look at
I'm-
what's left in the list, like
I'm
there's still
scrambling for hope here for Koa. As we're seeing that 0-mana attack out be held. Sunken Temple was a hell of a card.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of weird how flip-floppy the community's been with that card, with a couple of metas being like, okay, this is the most broken thing you can do, and then a couple of metas being like, okay, everybody's running 6 landmark removals between Aftershock and Portal Pioneer. Why would you ever even, like, just take Sunken Temple out of your deck at that point? Just more stall coming out of Koa, no threats, no War Mothers. Finally has the window where there's no denies in Kuro's hand. We'll ignore the time trick that would almost certainly find one, but
Oh dear, oh dear. I feel like every time Kuro draws that Sunken Temple updraft noise, it's just the death bell ringing for Koa. As a constant reminder of what's coming. Whiffs on anything important, but is able to take down a significant amount of the board.
yeah, misses the Seraphine, misses the Set, which honestly pretty good for Koa. Neither of those would have gone down to the Volibear ability anyway, but Kuro going to try to heal up to 23 and get sort of hit by the hard cap of the life total there, and 32 out of 50 on the Volibear. Might go up to 42 here, might just get recalled. There is
Pursuit Perfection, there we go.
Yeah, and I
And
mean, there's
the
a
zero
flash
mana
freeze and a
deny.
vengeance in Koa's hands to try and deal with that, but it feels like just a delay of the inevitable. On top of the fact that there are other units that Kuro has in play that'll also spell out lethal.
Now, as the bear is put back in the hand, and we see the Sewer Perfection, as I love to call it, the Ferminator, being summoned up.
Ferminator indeed. I'll be back, it said, came back through the Sunken Temple, and now, yeah, Showstopper, deny, all these auctions, doesn't really matter. They're all going away at the end of the round anyway.
I feel like you place your bets just to get more cards in your hand so you draw more next turn.
And Koa continuing to go through the motions on this one. Yeah, I think Kuro's kind of at the point where they're done wasting time. They just want to get this game over with.
Yeah. This game took half an hour. And Koa, I'm pretty sure, played 4 units.
Come on, F5, let's go.
It was a little bit of a rough call, showing from the War Mother's call. And that is going to be game number 1 going over to Kuro. 1-0 over Koa.
That's how we do it.
And now it's just I mean,
It's
Kuro
Jack's
now
turn to
has...
win it.
Kuro has the monumental task, the impossible uphill battle of trying to win a tournament game in 2023 with Jack's Ornn. How will they ever do it, Rory?
I don't know. It's just with how weak Weapon Masters are in the current meta. It's just so hard to get that reach over the top, As we load into game here, I'd love to see what Koa did. Are they doing? I believe they're doing the salty run back of this ramp deck, trying to just shut down these Weapon Masters. That's a Jax in the opening hand.
Not a bad hand for Koa. Yeah, gonna ship a little bit of that away. Okay. We talked a little bit in a previous match about She Who Wanders versus Weapon Masters, where it will probably kill everything in hand and probably kill almost nothing on board. But Koa can ramp into this a little bit faster than anyone previously, thanks to Rond.
But I just want to say, for the first time ever, Kuro has drawn spells when playing Weapon Masters, which is a massive improvement over the last series.
There was a point where I unironically had to pull up Kuro's deck list to make sure they were running Sky Splitter.
They were just all units and 1 sharesies.
My heroic last stands never seemed to stick.
But Jax is going to kick this party off. Not the best weapon to aim at with Quietus, just because another copy of Jax down the line will re-snatch that out of the abyss, bring it back to the forefront. Usually Quietus is going to be reserved for things that have been forged at least a couple of times.
He also just gets overwhelmed from his level 2 anyway. So it's not the most impactful weapon to remove. All you're doing is actually just getting rid of a quick attack.
Which, in this matchup, pretty irrelevant, I would say.
Yeah. You're never going over the top of a volley bear. Sorry, mate. Just seeing a sigil here. I was actually really hoping for Rond early, so they can turbo out that She Who Wanders for 7 mana.
Yeah, Invocation of Thunder, not a bad tech, especially when paired with Rond the Magma Serpent, which would be available in just a couple of turns. Yeah, Wild Mysticism actually, I was going to say, like, a perfect top deck if Rond is then the next card, because this will get you into turn 6 with that landmark in play, and then you're off to the races from there, and that might actually be an early enough She Who Wanders.
That was really interesting. Actually, just going through the draw from Enchanting Lure. Just to cycle through Kuro's deck a little bit more. Going to forge this Jax. No longer dies to Avalanche. Just progressing that level up slowly and slowly. Kuro, actually, a much slower tempo than they've had in previous matches because of these hands.
Kuro actually stepping on the brakes just a little bit, doing that forge onto the Jax rather than throwing down a combat cook and potentially losing the Jax to an Avalanche. Don't know that it would have been the end of the world, but Kuro in a very nice position to just go for, Glacial Saurian into, I don't know, maybe another Glacial Saurian. Meanwhile, Koa does not find the Ron the Magma Serpent. It's just more Frostbite.
Well, just is fine now because Kuro's invested resources into forging. Maybe Kuro's saying, I want to keep my Jax on board as long as possible because of his innate overwhelm, and I can do some cool Entomb shenanigans with him later on.
Well, Koa, not in a bad spot per se. Like, Piercing Darkness gets to come out here, it will almost certainly get counteracted by a Sky Splitter, but still setting up for a nice Avalanche. that actually isn't even played here.
Oh, does Kuro not run Avalanche?
Yeah, Kuro doesn't run Avalanche.
My bad.
I was with you. I was in camp.
shocked
Just
for
assume
that.
they run
3
Avalanche.
of Eradication instead of 3 of Avalanche. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a bit of a head scratcher, but I guess they were teching towards Seraphine instead of Jax.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate for the Jax matchup that they now find themselves in, especially after losing the Seraphine matchup. But War Mother's Call has been found.
Can drop it next turn, which is excellent for Koa, and then still be able to shoot Wonders on the next. Means they have no mana to bank, though.
Did I see you using my lamp to stir the pot last night? Sorry, all the spoons were dirty.
I would like Koa to preemptively freeze her, purely to slow down Jax's level up. Because right now, Kuro could get +10 to Jax's level up.
I also think a preemptive Harsh Winds just does a really good job of stopping Sharesies. Not that that's something that I think really matters in an
Sharesies will
instance
still-
like this.
Sharesies will still give +2, +1 and Scout. Because Frostbite
It'll transfer
works
the
on
weapon
the
over.
unit.
In
Yeah,
that case,
if they
I think
swap
I
the weapon.
actually hate the preemptive freeze, because then Sharesies could be used to give the Glacial Sari and the Scout weapon, and then if Koa is forced to flash freeze there...
well.
Oh, okay. Gonna do it preemptively. Sharesies could be used for a sort of a weak Glacial Saurian.
You could use Sharesies on Jax, to be honest. Even if you freeze the Jax, he's not dying to the Feral Mystic.
Yeah. That's true. Might even be able to bring one of these back to life a little bit by equipping the Light of Acathia, but Koa really doesn't want to use any additional mana this turn, as that would take them off of War Mother's Call for the next turn, but it's not a bad backup, right? Like, if Flash Freeze does have to come out, Koa's still got Volibear.
Yeah.
Gotta stay on
True.
your toes.
Yep. Making Jax
Weapon roulette.
forward Scout here. But remember, if Koa invests his Flash Freeze here, they cannot use War Mother's Call next turn.
No,
They
but
need
Volibear,
that 3 banked mana.
Volibear will still kill 3 units. Barring, you know, the
Yes.
combat tricks that we see in Kuro's hand, but also going to deny the Jax level up here. So things
Well,
going pretty
Jax-
well for Koa.
Jax will die now to Volibear, even with Sky Splitter, because he's been put to 1 HP.
I was going to say, Kuro, a little surprised to see you throw everything into combat there.
Just sack the Jax or the Saurian.
Yeah.
It's fine, mate.
All right, this Volibear should be incredibly impactful. You know, we talk about War Mother's Call. That's sort of the weird thing about War Mothers in this list is that you
Ooh,
run a
that's
lot
good.
of play effects, right? Like, She Who Wanders
Yeah.
and Volibear don't work when coming off of War Mother's Call. Then you're just using them for the 10-10 body. But when you draw them, these play effects are so impactful, and we're going to see mostly a board wipe here. None of these are, like, high-impact saves from the Sky Splitter either.
I do want to point out that I actually think Kuro might want to Sky Splitter the Combat Cook. Mostly because Glacial Saurian needs that draw, and you need a Weapon Master to get that draw off. It won't draw off another Lizard. It has to be a different subtype.
And Ornn is something that Kuro needs to be digging for with
Yeah.
whatever means necessary to try and win this game.
Scout Ornn would be incredibly strong.
I think we might have seen the stabilization point here, though, Rory. The She Who Wanders is still available. Next turn, like, you know, it's a defensive turn for Koa anyway. They're
Sure.
not too mad that they're not able to, like,
They
get
got the
down a big
freeze.
unit. They've
They're
got a
chilling.
flash freeze. Yeah, like, they're in a pretty good spot. And then come turn 10, She Who Wanders can take out whatever's left in the hand, as long as it's not an Ornn. But
Hey,
it is all
Saurian-
going to go down.
Now doesn't get value off being played.
Kuro probably just going to go for the Combat Cook Explorer combo. Really hope they don't just throw down the Glacial Saurian anyway. I know
I really hope they don't do this.
You just kind of always have a Weapon Master out, so
Yeah.
if people just default into thinking it draws a card.
If it's a reading diff, that will be a terrible way of losing a match. Or at least setting yourself further behind.
Yeah, or Kuro might even just like say, yeah, I know this doesn't draw, but you know, whatever. I just need a +1/+1 on the top of my deck. I would disagree with that vehemently, but
Oh, yeah. Kuro, so I would like to see... I don't know about Pioneer. I don't think the Overwhelm is that impactful right now because Volibear's aura grants overwhelm. So going for the heal here, I don't think that does that much.
I think it's actually more about taking out that wild mystic before it turns into a 6/6.
Ah, getting in the turn just before it gets upgraded.
Yeah. Which, like, if Koa ends up going for a Winter's Touch off the top, absolute disaster for Kuro, but we'll kind of see how that plays out when we get there.
Right, Kuro. How are you going to fish for this one? You don't get your draw off Entrancing Lure unless it's on a Weapon Master. Or actually, just equipped ally, actually. So you could put Scout onto this Challenger unit. You've already got Challenger on it, so is the Entrancing Lure draw that necessary?
Yeah, and I think it's really just about, like, digging for Ornn. Getting Combat Cookout feels pretty good. You need to go Combat Real if you want it to survive She Who Wanders, and it looks like that's just not going to be a concern for Kuro.
Oh, no. But now, with She Who Wanders dropping, Kuro would have to Sky Splitter to save this Combat Cook. It's 4 attack or below.
Still a turn off of that, though. I don't think Kuro's too worried about that right now. I think more so just thinking, how do I make it through this turn? It's probably going to be a Shepherd's Authority.
Yeah. Big stick to hit face. Right here, and... Oh, Kuro. How are you going to figure this one out? You have a Give Challenger in hand. So you could give the Saurian Challenger and grab the Feral Mystic and try and win through Overwhelm there and hope Koa doesn't have Freeze.
Yeah, I think it's actually necessary that Koa drew a second Frostbite spell in order to stay in this game. Not 100%, but certainly it makes this turn a lot safer for them, as if they went for the Three Sisters initially, that was the turn regardless. They're still on War Mother's mana next turn if that's the direction that they want to go.
I don't think you War
It's
Mothers
just got to
here.
be a freeze.
I don't think you War Mothers here. I think you just She Who wins. I'm struggling to see a situation where you go, I want 2 units instead of I want to remove Kuro's entire hand, because this is such a unit-heavy list.
Thinking really hard about this flash freeze, or maybe even just thinking about like the Three Sisters flash freeze, or if they're getting really crazy, maybe even go, oh, it's going to be the Entomb, actually. I was thinking, like, if you want to get really crazy, maybe you even go for an attempt of, like, a Fury of the North to actually just trade and deal with the Glacial Saurian permanently, but just wants to take the Scout weapon totally out of play.
I do want to add, though, when this Glacial Saurian re-emerges, they will get their summon effect, which is incredibly impactful and helps Kuro keep cycling for their deck and looking for that Ornn.
Oh, Kuro's got a... actually, if Kuro... yeah, if Kuro takes this block and then opens with She Who Wanders, there's not going to be a Weapon Master in play.
No, there won't be,
Unless Kuro immediately re-equips the Shepherd's Authority?
No, so you can Sky Splitter onto the Combat Cook, and they'll survive.
Koa
But they...
could-
No, but... Just thinking... Koa just has Lethorn open, right? If they drop the She Who Wanders, that's 2 10 attack units. There is a freeze available, but then you will lose your Weapon Master.
Yeah, so if Koa goes for the She Who Wanders and Kuro does use like Sky Splitter to save this, then they could develop a second blocker and kind of go from there, in which case like Koa would have to use the Flash Freeze, but it feels like a...
Doesn't feel...
It's not great, especially when we look to the left of Kuro's hand and see that Three Sisters that is going to guarantee their survival this turn.
Mm-hmm. With Volibear so low, we could see a very cheeky Wildclaw Ferocity to try and go over the top a little. Just push some extra overwhelm damage. This could be the War Mother's turn instead, yeah.
Yeah, deciding that, you know, with this many cards in hand, there's a good... like, Kuro hasn't really been running out unit after unit after unit, so Koa just making the call that I think you have a rather spell-heavy hand. I think my She Who Wanders isn't going to get a whole lot done, and I'd feel a lot safer if I'm just getting a couple of units a turn.
You did just open your Volibear up to Fish Fight, though, by dropping below freeze mana. Which means this Cook should be able to finish off the Volibear.
Yeah, this is sort of Kuro's big swing turn now, with Koa being that tapped down, has the chance to take out the Volibear, develop another Glacial Saurian, then the next Glacial Saurian reemerges on the following
And then you
turn.
Ferocity next turn. And just swing for everyone has 5+ attack.
Still a Flash Freeze in Koa's hand to try and combat that a little bit on the following turn, and a couple of top decks still available, like Vengeance and some other Frostbite effects to try and combat this, but for the time being, this is like a huge tempo swing for Kuro, whereas previously it felt like it was all but done for them.
I'm just thinking we might see an Entomb come out from Kuro on the next swing to try and push extra overwhelm damage.
Ooh, not a perfect hit off of the Saurian, but I think Kuro's going to be relatively happy that like it's a playable unit.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, if Kuro drew Ornn right there, it would put them in a very tricky decision-making situation. So I think Omen Hawk is completely fine.
Yeah, and you can even throw down that Omen Hawk, equip it with a Shepherd's Authority, and have a pretty strong attacker on the following turn.
Remember, Koa will be summoning something next turn thanks to the War Mother's Call. You just take this hit.
Yeah, and again, we talked about this earlier, Volibear and She Who Wanders, those are not summon effects, those are play effects. Whatever comes off the top is just a body.
Right now, what can it be? It can be a Tryndamere, a Volibear, Rond, most likely to be Bodir. If you don't win on the next swing, Kuro, you will have 2 Overwhelmed Thralls facing you down.
It's looking really good for Kuro here.
To win this, can you find an angle? Can you use your Entomb for Overwhelms to find something? Ornn is here. He is buffed up.
Couple of Orns even in Rond. Also a play effect, not summoning any of those Sigils of Invocation to give Koa the ability to play into development and then still hold up something. That War Mother's Call on the previous turn, just making it really awkward for this Flash Freeze again. If, you know, Kuro develops, Koa doesn't have mana for She Who Wanders plus Flash Freeze, but that's not going to be the case. Straight into combat, pulling away the Bodir. And now it's looking like a pretty good fork for Kuro.
Wow. This is how the match ends. Only 13 minutes left for the next game. This has taken so long. A freeze. Koa does have fishing. Using that Frost Touch, it will draw 1 for only 1 mana. Might be able to find another freeze.
Yeah, because at the moment, as things stand, if Koa goes for the Flash Freeze onto the largest unit, Kuro actually has lethal with Fury of the North and Sky Splitter. Would have to commit a lot into that, though. And Koa, I mean, Kuro has the option, but do they go for it? Do they want to commit all of these resources into a potential vengeance? And as you mentioned, Koa still has a draw. They might find something. The Frostbite has going to commit in Kuro. How hard do you want to go on this?
Kuro, now is time to decide. Do you put the pedal to the metal here? Try and push with this Glacial Saurian. You have access to the resources. You have the mana.
They're going for it.
Do you call Koa's bluff? Do you say, I don't think you have a freeze anymore? Fury goes down. Sky Splitter soon to follow. Koa, you need to fish for a freeze or you tie up. No, then Kuro wins 2-0 and you are not going to Worlds. Kuro, this swing is for your place in the World Tournament. Koa, you need to top deck here.
Koa's got 1 mana, 1 draw, 8 mana to do it with not a lot of outs left in the deck. The draw comes through, and it is Flash Freeze!
It's a freeze! It's a freeze! It's absolutely massive! As the Thralls are coming through next turn, Kuro no longer has an answer to Overwhelmers. And Koa, you have snatched victory from the jaws of defeat here.
Koa managing to hang on there, withstand the onslaught. Kuro goes for it. It doesn't matter. Here come the...
Oh, one of them obliterated!
Oh, such an awkward sequence. Vengeance top deck going to save it, but yeah, this got really sketchy really fast.
The dragons, the serpent, the thrall, all swinging together. And Kuro, you had the line. That was damn unlucky. As Koa will take the victory swing to tie up the series 1-1. 15 minutes left on the clock.
And Kuro just looks like gonna time out here. And that is going to be a tie series here. Koa and Kuro going to game number 3. Jax Orn versus Seraphine
days.
Janna. I don't know if that's something that's going to end in 15 minutes, Rory.
I don't know how Koa is going to play fast enough with Janna Seraphine to make the perfect decisions to stop these Forge Weapon Masters.
Yeah, it's going to take a very fast hand on the side of Kuro, and Targon, not the best region at sort of stalwarting something like that. Obviously, you've got like Celestial
You've got
Wonder,
the Celestial Impact.
There's a couple of options here, but it's not a lot of equipment removal coming out of Koa.
And it's a good opener for Kuro, to be honest. I think you can keep this entire hand. Not the fish fight deciding Seraphine's not an issue, but finds Weapon Master's Apprentice.
That's
this is
a
the
curve.
most disgusting curve I've seen in a long time. If Kuro top decks Jax, I don't know how Koa even ever answers that.
Gonna just keep a Seraphine and then a couple of 2 damage removal spells, which not gonna play
Okay,
well
that-
into
that
this
will do the
apprentice.
job. Yeah, that'll do the job.
Kindle picked me. That's why I smoked.
Koa, slightly lower on time, remaining by 7 seconds or so.
There is a story.
David Artisan coming down.
It's the one where
It feels like
Tune
Koa.
from-
Oh,
hammer, tongs, anvil.
I was gonna say it feels like Koa kind of has to take out the apprentice here. Maybe they can just do it first action next turn, but I don't think you can allow the first weapon master of the game to just get forged twice on turn 3.
What's more insane is that because its castaway has a tune, so it allows for the forge spell to go through.
Koa, okay, yeah, first move
have
of the
to-
game of the turn, take out the apprentice, stop the double forge. Actually rethinks
Ooh.
it.
Maybe using. They're deciding, I think, whether to use Mystic Shot or High Note.
Yeah, a decision that matters for Koa certainly, and does land on the Mystic Shot.
It just snapped.
Because obviously Mystic Shot has it where it can go face, but
Rather be sailors, but this looks fun too.
Oh man, a double forged either Pan of Pain or Pot of Pain would have been an absolute disaster against this damage-based removal list that Koa's running,
Absolutely.
so good on them to
Disgusting.
stop that a little bit.
so we're probably seeing the Forge come out. Oh, Jax is here. You can Sky Splitter, but it doesn't feel that great. I think you just jam the Shepherd's Authority
Hey, they patch up the hole real
and go
good.
for a massive swing. I feel like Celestial Wonder might be pre-committed here.
Stopping that Jax level up is important. Seen it take over games a little bit too often. I'm not sure if this is a large enough attack for Koa to feel like using one of their sort of safety nets.
Yes.
Again, in the Piltover and Zon and Targon combination, this is really the only thing that Koa has to stop an Ornn or a large Jax down the line.
To the forge.
Whoa, you sound great.
Sacking the Seraphine, you got another one in hand, it's fine. It's hedging, it feels like it's hedging the bleeding here. The Youngling's gonna do a lot of work over the next few turns, keeping the Nexus topped up. And that Destroy equipment might come in very impactful later on from the Octopath Traveler. Or Octo Adventure. Octopath Traveler is a very different game.
I assume that was just your nickname for it. Yeah, it is going to be the kill equipment spell, and I mean, there's already a couple in here that are rough. Shepherd's Authority and Pot of Pain, or Pano Pain. Impact one. Just they're both rough.
The Impact
for this.
one's Pot of Pain, the tough one is Pan of Pain.
Gotcha. Yeah, the Pot of Pain. Too many pains. The Pot of
Yeah.
Pain's still a bit of an issue here,
Annoyingly-
as it just gives like a big health buff.
Yeah, I get what the confusion, because annoyingly Pot and Pan, both quite tough and both have an impact if they hit you in the face. So I get it.
But it is going to be the Shepherd's Authority that's taken out just a few too many stats for Koa to deal with all on one card.
Now Jax, I believe, is just leveling. That's 10 to his level. And we've already seen 6 attacks swing from the Shepherd's Authority.
The craft
Yep,
sings.
that's a level Jax on turn 6.
Everybody loves 2-mana champions that can just take over the game. Am I right, Rory? I'm talking Seraphine. I'm talking
I
Samira.
love
I'm
it.
talking Jax. I'm
I'm
talking
talking
Akshan.
old Lucian. Wait. Oh, my days. Koa. You're just getting run over by the overwhelmed forces. Jax will get stunned up. But you only take 1 to Nexus, which the Starling will heal up.
I mean, down to 6 this early, though, not a great look, but still, you have to worry about the Ornn that could be coming down on the following turn. Maybe you still hang back this Celestial Wonder for a larger hit, and down to 5 minutes here on the clock. Koa down over a minute in time. You have to assume if this comes to overtime, that's going to be a Kuro victory.
I wonder if you just throw out that high note to test the waters to see if Kuro's got the Sky Splitter. But then again, you can just use the 2-mana spell to throw Pot of Pain back onto the Castaway.
Oh, actually, it is going to go for the full-on
for the
Celestial
stun?
Wonder. I kind of like the idea of fishing for something with the high note, threaten the life of the Castaway. I don't think taking 8 is the end of the world here, so if your opponent then does commit like a Sky Splitter or something, then you can go
Yeah.
for the full Celestial Wonder.
Just a reminder, there is 5 minutes of overtime, so we actually have 9 minutes left on the clock. And every game matters. So
Oh,
Koa
Kuro gonna
is
go for a
desperate.
value sharesies.
Okay, killing off the youngling. I really like that, actually. That's really cool. You're just going to stop any consistent healing coming through for Koa. Both
So what
these
is-
players. Oh,
We
please
keep
go.
talking about Koa can survive, Kuro can draw Ornn. How does Koa win this game, Rory?
With 8 minutes left, I don't think it's physically possible as they don't have bar down.
Very quickly, I guess, is the answer to that.
If they had bar, they might have a chance with Seraphine doing just random spells that she generates and somehow finding a win. But now you've got an Ornn, and Koa doesn't have a stun, and those are 2 pretty useless cards to have info on. Janet doesn't really want to updraft any of this hand, so dropping her isn't great.
I wonder if Koa... I guess Koa doesn't care about Mystic Shot anymore now that the information is out there that there's a Sky Splitter. Like, you can try and high note to sort of fork them on either killing the Combat Cook or the Piltover Castaway. Only one can be saved by the Sky Splitter. I don't even know if we're at the 6 spells played yet, but I think Koa is just kind of staring at this like, oh, this is not what I wanted to be seeing.
I'm pretty confident that we are not at 6 unique spells.
5 out of 9. Close, but no cigar.
Dax is literally unkillable without barrier as well from the counter strike, so
Which Koa has no information on, because previously they would know there was a champion
of
spell in
course,
hand,
Swindle's
but
only
now,
2.
now it only shows 2, so you just think you don't know what that third card is.
and those are bad cards to pull for Koa. You can't even hush the Jax because he has Overwhelm. You can get rid of his bonus stats, but oh dear, still quite a tanky lad with that forged weapon.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite 20 damage or even 19 coming through onto Koa this turn through the Hush, but might as well be, right? You're losing everything
Yeah.
except for the Janna.
You can't hush this Ornn, by the way, because it's all forging.
Yeah. So, I mean, Hush onto Jax is the play that survives.
Might see, yeah, I was going to say Advanced Intel maybe just to draw one more.
Ugh.
But Ramage is just paying mana to draw again. Doesn't feel great if that's all you're spending your mana on.
Shields us.
Down to 2.
Okay, looking to just...
Sky Splitter plus
Shit,
Jack
the Janna.
spell means you're not safe on 2, but you don't know that Koa has Hush.
I'm looking at this, and it feels like Koa is really trying to preserve this Targon Telstone to go for a Behold the Infinite, but there's no single
There's
card that's
nothing
going to
to
be
get you
enough.
No, even if you obliterate 2 with Supernova, it's not good enough. It's simply not good enough. Kuro has another Jax in hand.
At the very least, you know, if Supernova comes out, that'll get a lot of progression onto the Seraphine level up. Sort of awkward part, I guess, from that is, okay, it looks like it is actually just going to be the Hush onto the Jax.
Your Janna is still dying.
You shall not assail.
Okay, just going to move that one over a little bit.
Yeah, realize that. Okay.
Do a couple of rearrange of the blocks as well.
Koa is hanging on for dear life right now. On levels. We'll get to see him do the big bonk.
Hold it steady for me.
We go into turn 9.
Now this is what good looks like.
We'll be summoning that Overwhelm Ram next turn, which means there'll be 3 huge Overwhelmers. Shatter can destroy equipment, though.
Ooh.
So you can slow down Ornn a little.
It is going to be Fish Fight onto Seraphine just before she can level and get insane rummage value, though. And that feels like it was a necessary thing for Koa to come back into this.
So
It's just
close.
like, can use the rummage to level the Seraphine, but at that point it doesn't matter. There's not a whole lot that you're looking to draw into. It was really that rummage you were looking to get the double up off onto.
And the double-edged sword of Seraphine decks only running one-offs of every spell. Like, you just don't have the consistency of having multiple Celestial Wonders available to you.
There is a second one somewhere in the list, but not very likely for Koa to run into it. And even if they did, what's the win condition? Kuro's up 4.5 minutes on the clock. There's only 4 minutes left. Like, Koa literally cannot win on time anymore.
You're gonna sit down. Make sure you stretch.
Good advice from Jax coming out there. Just as he gets hit in the face with a rocket. 3 minutes, 35 seconds remaining. Koa has a Janna and a Dream. Kuro has an Elemental Fire God.
That is just going to be Jax going down. Just going to replay Jax rather than valuing the Forge plus Barrier. Innovative Blacksmith going to come through as well for an Upcycle Rake or a Panda Pain. And that's going to be the Rake.
Wonder if they do some... Yeah, I think they're doing some shuffling and just going to give Ornn the Rake here. Get an extra hit in with him and the Ram.
Little do they know, there is actually weapon removal hiding in Koa's hand in the form of this Shatter.
What do you mean? What do you mean you didn't play around that randomly generated Shatter? Seraphine is pulled. She does level, but you can't play Sunken Temple at the same time. I don't think Koa cares.
I hear you,
If
son.
Koa
Now
manages to bring this back in the next 3 minutes, I will be in awe that Kuro, in theory, could just run down the clock.
Yeah, there's not enough established for Koa right now to actually find a victory unless they can rummage into a... Oh, okay, hold on. If you... Now, I don't know where Pursuit is at. I'm pretty sure with Seraphine just leveling, it's not at 20. But if it was drawn as the first card off Rummage, Janna would reduce it to 4 cost.
Oh my days. There is no way, because Kuro also has a freeze.
That is a problem.
The hope.
A big one.
Chat, I hope you're huffing your copium right now for Vietnam to advance an extra player 2 worlds. Koa holding in.
90 seconds left on the clock as we pass back over to Kuro's attack token.
The Zephyr heralds the squall.
Mystic Shot redrawn.
Got more scars than years, and got a lot of years.
Jackson,
And
the
the
light of
large
Acacia.
lads are about to come smacking down.
Rummage finally fired off. What can you draw here, Koa? Caustic Riff is nothing. Duskbringer is nothing. Sunken Temple's redundant. Celestial Wonder will save you. Will buy you a turn. Will it even buy you a turn?
No, because 11
Okay, yeah.
and,
Yeah, I mean, this'll...
I,
Doing it
oh,
pre-combat.
So they're 1 mana off doing a Wild Claw Ferocity into Entomb, which is really unfortunate. But they're going to scout Wild Claw Ferocity here.
Yeah, I think, though, that with Transfusion, Shatter even going to be used to take out the Scout weapon.
Oh,
30 seconds left on the clock.
you held down the line. But
Only a
as
fool would imply
timer
what's up.
ticks over, the Wild Claw Ferocity comes out. It don't even die because Transfusion, but... Oh. A massive smack.
Yeah, 2 seconds left on the clock. 1, and that is going to be time. That is going to be Kuro taking the victory. But folks, we have some news for some of the more astute viewers who may have done the tiebreaker math previously. While Kuro is the winner of this match, Koa actually will still be the one advancing through to the World Championship. Kuro needed a 2-0 victory over Koa in order to be the one to advance. Koa getting that 2-0 victory over Pukaru earlier on and having the highest seeded. I think it comes down to game count specifically, with Kuro having too many 2-1s. So that is going to be Koa moving on to the World Championship later this year. Congratulations to them, even though they didn't get the game win there, the final match when we had that 3-way tie that we were all dreading and thinking about and worrying about.
Unbelievable games today. I think this has been amazing prep for what Worlds is going to look like this year. Some of the control decks that we're going to see specifically. Still waiting to see some aggro mid-range, but I think today has been a huge showing from every player who came.
Absolutely. And again, we do just want to remind folks again, because I know it's weird to see Kuro win the match against Koa and then still be like, okay, it doesn't actually matter. Koa is the one that's going through, but it is Koa moving on to the World Championship. So congratulations to them, and congratulations to Pukaru and Kuro, who put on an excellent show for us, going to the absolute last minute every single round. But that will do it for us today. Rory, is there anything that you want to say to the fine folks at home before we sign off?
Thanks for coming out. I know APAC doesn't get as many viewers as the Americas or EMEA normally does. So thank you all for coming out and seeing some of the amazing talent that the region garners.
Absolutely. And that will do it for us. I have been Boulevard. This has been Rory. Koa, we will see you later this year at the World Championship, our 64th and final qualified player. It's now all locked in. We're off to the races. Expansion drops in a week. Everybody get ready. Just a couple of weeks away from the main event. We'll see you there.